The private attorney-client meeting to discuss litigation strategy in the case of Diane Kobernick versus Pasco County, Florida, and Bonnie Binky et al. Case number 512016 CA 3484 WS, Florida Circuit Court 6, Judicial Circuit has concluded. And now at this time, I'd like to call back to order the Board of County Commission meeting November 27th, 2018. Remind everyone to please silence all the electronic devices. At this time, we have resolutions.
Okay, resolution RS1 has the Pasco County Leadership Development Program. Those members, please come forward. Congratulations to all of you, all your work. You could stand there. I'll read the resolution, then I'm sure each of you will have a 5-minute speech. Oh, you can stand at the podium. You'll scare the commissioners if you come closer. But gather around behind the podium, please.
Gather around like a
semicircle.
No, the other side.
Hey, you want to look at us.
Face us.
Yeah,
face us.
What are you doing to Ben?
Maybe a little rehearsal.
And Ben's the leader there, so, just saying.
Resolution number 1935, whereas Pasco County is committed to the continuous development of its workforce in order to exceed customer expectations and achieve our vision as Florida's premier county. And whereas Pasco County has just completed its 7th annual leadership development program, which identifies potential leaders in the organization, provides training, mentoring, and the opportunity to practice participants' learned skills by completing a hands-on stretch project. And whereas today we honor the Pasco County 2018 Leadership Development Class, who over the last year has shown the hard work, commitment, and dedication to improve their own leadership skills, to improve our organization, and to improve Pasco County as a whole. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby recognizes the Pasco County Leadership Development Program Class of 2018, done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November 2018, signed by the board.
Second. Got approval on second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Welcome. Chairman Wells?
I'm not chairman anymore, Chairman.
Well, excuse me. I'll change that. Ex-chairman.
Past chairman. Immediate past chairman.
No,
I'm so used to habit,
Yeah, I understand. We're lucky to have you there, but Ben, you go ahead and then.
Ben Deal, Training and Development. First of all, I want to thank all of you once again for taking the time to recognize these individuals, and thank all of you and our county administration for the support of all our training and development programs. As most of you are well aware, each year we select a group of leaders in our organization to go through this training program. It's an 8-month program. They've started back in February and just concluded this past month. They've done a lot of work, and as Paula read there in the resolution, everything from training classes to mentoring to a stretch project, all while doing their normal duties. So they're really an amazing bunch of individuals here. I'm proud to have them standing alongside of me. I just wanted to bring up a couple things. I was looking through our group, some of the information on these individuals. 6 of them have already received promotions within the last year while they're going through this program. So these are overachievers. And some of the projects that this group have been working on are things that you guys see. We've got the social media initiative with development services that started this last year. This is coming out of some of the individuals with this group. We've got a new recording studio that's opening up here in just a few weeks in Hudson Library. That's from some of these individuals in this group. And we've actually had a few of the individuals here that are standing in front of you head up north this last month or two to help our neighbors up north with hurricane recovery, all while all while completing this program. So again, really proud to stand in front of you guys with these guys. They're really amazing individuals, and want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to recognize them here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ben, did everybody else take a test at the end? Because there's a couple of guys, I'm not sure they would have passed. Right?
We graded on a curve.
And I wasn't talking about moose. I just figured out. So, thank you all. I mean, you really, truly make us look good. We're lucky to have the 2,500 member team we have, and for you to be picked to go through this 8-month class says a lot about you. And I know you're all from different departments, and I'm sure hopefully it's really brought you together. And we appreciate it. And I would love to see you make a big deal about these couple things. I can tell you the videos, except for seeing Don on them, they're great. But, you know, seeing him out there doing his little, I notice it. I'm sure that the board does too, and I'm sure the residents do, but I would love to be able to, I had no idea that this team was the ones who started that, as well as the Hudson Library. I think it's a great thing. We need to put that out there. And I know you don't want to toot your own horn, but you need to. That's exciting. And like I said, I really had no idea. I just knew something great was going on when we started, you know, seeing Don on there. You know, but no, truly thank you. I'm sure that others want to say something real quick, then we'll come down and get a picture. But truly thank you for everything you do every day for our residents.
You have the resolutions.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No, it's great. Thank you all for all your work. We
Great
appreciate
job. Stand to the side of him. Got all
Thanks.
The second resolution is by title only.
Okay.
Resolution number 1933, a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, commending Captain Roger Gilkey for 30 years of dedication to Pasco County and congratulating him on his retirement. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November, 2018, signed by the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, Chief Caston's going to take that. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Third resolution is for Jean Hink. Would you come forward, please? Resolution number 1934, whereas Jean Hink has dedicated 20 years of inspiring service as the 4-H Youth Development Agent to the IFAS Cooperative Extension of Pasco County, and whereas Jean has helped thousands of residents through exceptional youth development and leadership training, and whereas just some of her accomplishments over these 20 years include helping educate and develop 9 state 4-H council officers, serving as the interim county extension director, and taking thousands of children to state 4-H camps, 4-H University, 4-H legislature in Tallahassee, the White House, and even to presidential inaugurations. And whereas Jean brought in thousands of dollars in grant funding for scholarships and new educational programs through her hard work soliciting companies and donors. And whereas Jean has been very instrumental in the training and development of the county's staff by participating in a number of countywide events such as the elementary school field trip conducted by Public Services Branch. Jean shared her wealth of knowledge with students and county personnel to inform them about the 4-H mission, goals, program, and how to use their head, heart, hands, and health to execute daily activities. And whereas Jean has been tireless in her pursuit of leadership development, education, and ensuring better lives for the youth and adult citizens of Pasco County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby commends Jean Hink for 20 years of dedicated service to the University of Florida IFAS Cooperative Extension of Pasco County, congratulates her on her retirement, and wishes her well with her future endeavors. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November 2018, signed by the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Welcome.
Thank you.
Does it seem like it's been 20?
Well, it's been 20 years with the 4-H program that I did 10 years as a child abuse investigator
Wait.
and for this county. So yeah, it's
Right.
been 30 years that I've, helped youth in this county. So I'm real happy about that.
I know you've seen them grow up in the program and actually
Yeah.
graduate out and come back probably, so,
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
almost a third generation for some.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks real good when you can see the kids grow up and be successful adults. So
yeah.
it's been a pleasure to serve and see the success of what 4-H does for youth.
Yeah. We thank you for all that you did, so, and have done, so,
Well, thank you.
great.
Good, thank you.
So it looks like Dr. Elmore wants to say something.
I got a little bit of something to say. I'm just hoping that Don doesn't start showing up in our videos before too long, because he's all over the place. No, thank you very much. Just on behalf of the University of Florida, I just wanted to step up and say a few things. Number one, to Jean, we're going to miss her. She's still with us for roughly a couple of months here. Before the end of January, when she retires, she's put in 30 years with the state of Florida. And she's going to be difficult to replace. She has produced 9 state officers for Pasco County for the State 4-H Council, which is a tremendous accomplishment. And it speaks to her ability to produce leaders out of children. And so those leaders have gone on to be very successful in so many different parts of their lives. So this is really a resolution. Thank you all for recognizing her accomplishments, but also the leadership she's been able to provide others that allowed them to achieve some major accomplishments in their lives and to better not just Pasco, not just the state, but also the country in a lot of ways. So we really do appreciate from the University of Florida the recognition for Jean and for her dedicated service. We will miss you, Jean.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mariano?
Gene, I tell you, you've been actually a delight to work with, watching you work with these youth day in and day out, the projects they've done, and just coming out and getting involved in the community. I can't thank you enough for your service all the way through.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And the kids love to go play and do a community service that you get to play in the water. So, sometimes it's not work when you have fun doing what you're doing.
Right. Y'all want to join me down below? Want to have a picture?
Bill, I want to know how come it takes me to retire to get a new building?
Look at this one. You inspired that.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll still be around. Oh, that's just the one that is my
Doesn't need a line.
chauffeur, and he carries all this stuff around. So you know we really beat you bad. One and seven. Yeah. Here, should we do the top?
The next resolution is with hospice and palliative care. If someone could come forward to receive that. Good afternoon. Resolution number 1938, whereas hospice and palliative care provide the highest quality of care to patients and families and bring comfort, love, and respect for all those they serve in communities across the nation and here in Pasco County, Florida. Whereas hospice care and palliative care providers take the time to ask what's important to those they are caring for and listen to what their patients and families say. And whereas hospice and palliative care professionals, including physicians, nurses, social workers, therapists, counselors, health aides, and clergy, provide comprehensive and compassionate care that make the wishes of each patient and family a priority. And whereas through pain management and symptom control, caregiver training and assistance, and emotional and spiritual support, patients are allowed to live fully up until the final moment, surrounded and supported by the faces of loved ones, friends, and committed caregivers. And whereas the provision of quality hospice and palliative care reaffirms our belief in the essential dignity of every person, regardless of age, health, or social status, and that every stage of human life deserves to be treated with the utmost respect and care. And whereas every year more than 1.6 million Americans living with a life-limiting illness and their families receive care from the nation's hospice programs in communities throughout the United States, with 2,701 patients cared for by Gulfside Hospice and Pasco Palliative Care in Pasco County. And whereas more than 468,000 trained volunteers contribute 22 million hours of service to hospice programs annually, with 45,000 hours of service provided locally by Gulfside's more than 300 volunteers. And whereas hospice and palliative care providers encourage all people to encourage more about options of care and to share their wishes with family, loved ones, and their healthcare professionals. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby declares the month of November as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month in Pasco County and commends Gulfside Hospice and Pasco Palliative Care for its outstanding service and dedication to the citizens of Pasco County. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November, 2018, signed by the board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Oakley, and thank you, Paula, and thank you, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here every year to thank our Commissioners for supporting our organization. Gulfside Hospice and Pasco Palliative Care serves 415 hospice patients today and about 100 palliative care patients. And it's because of the support of all of you every year that we're able to serve every patient in need, regardless of inability to pay or ability to pay. We're happy to be here with you today, and we have a little parting gift for you as well. So thank you so much for your support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to join me down below? We'll
Sure.
have a picture.
The next resolution is on recognizing pancreatic cancer. Is there anyone here representing that organization? Please come forward. That's why you're in purple today.
Every day.
Every day. It's beautiful. Resolution number 1936, whereas pancreatic cancer, one of the deadliest cancers, is currently the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States and is projected to become the second by 2020. And whereas pancreatic cancer is the seventh most common cause of cancer-related death in men and women across the world. And whereas in 2018, an estimated 55,440 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 44,330 will die from the disease. And whereas approximately 3,300 deaths will occur in Florida in 2018, and whereas pancreatic cancer is the only major cancer with a 5-year relative survival rate in the single digits at just 9%. And whereas when symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is generally late stage, and 71% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of their diagnosis, while 93% die within the first 5 years. And whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Pasco County are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection causes and effective treatments. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby declares November 2018 as Pancreatic Cancer Month in Pasco County, done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November 2018, signed by the board.
Move for approval. Oh, that's yours.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Just, we do a lot of these visits, and it is for awareness, and I just really give some good awareness out there. I'm a 7-year survivor. There's not many of me. I say that the first 4 years were total, hell, the last 3 I've been disease-free. We don't even use the word remission because they say it just hides in you. But I think back, what can everyone do? If you haven't been touched by it, know someone or a family member, the number one thing you can do if anyone's diagnosed is, man, seek out a test trial. Without test trials, they're never gonna change the statistics of this nasty cancer. And we are so fortunate because you hear about the biggest places in the country to go. Let me tell you, Tampa's still, in our words, number 1. There's not a lot you can do for this disease. And with Moffitt and some of the doctors in this area, it's just amazing. To be diagnosed, what do you look for? I turned jaundice, that's it. My wife looked at me and said, hey, you look strange. Went to the emergency ward, thought they'd give me a shot or something, I'd leave. And 16 days later, after an extensive surgery, I was home. And then I fought it for 4 more years with reoccurrences. But what are symptoms? Man, unfortunately, half the people I know who have it, they were looking at their body for something else, and they said, hey, we think we see something. They had no symptoms. But the other symptoms that other people have had, besides jaundice, is you have weight loss that there's really no explanation, but I was pretty big. I just thought I was doing better. You'll talk to a lot of people who'll tell you that. So unexplained weight loss, being fatigued, a nagging little pain in your back that comes and goes. Those are big ones. And those are ones where you want to go to the doctor and say, it's where you've never had a situation like that or a symptom like that and go, hey, you need to be your medical advocate and go, I want to be tested. I want to see if I have that. As early as you can catch it, hopefully they get to do something. But that's it. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and talking about your journey today. I will tell you, I have 2 friends with pancreatic cancer, and one of them is probably going on 11 years now, where he had a full Whipple, is doing great. And the other one's approaching 5 years, and he's doing fine too. So I'm very grateful that I think the disease is, not so many are, passing away right away, but I think they've made great strides. And congratulations to you.
Thank you. One more note. When Pancreatic Cancer Action Network was started in 1997, there was maybe 2 or 3 full-time researchers in the United States for this disease. Now there's up to over 4,000. And I could say it's because of this group and other groups, because they all work together. And it's, the 15th was World Pancreatic Cancer Day.
Right.
So groups from around the world, they all join up in New York and they meet and they constantly share. But for us, we go to these meetings. We've been to these meetings where there's maybe 100 of these researchers all pumped up. It's neat to go in these meetings now, and there's over 1,000. And,
That's wonderful.
Everything they're doing is way over our heads, but we know they're working on it.
All right, well, thank you very much, and
Thank
everyone,
you.
let's go down and say congratulations and take our photo.
We're the group of 2.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, next resolution is for the National Runaway Prevention Month. Anyone here representing those areas of our concern? Good. Okay, resolution number 1937, whereas between 1.6 and 2.8 million youth run away during a 1-year period. These young people come from every life circumstance. What they often share in common is that their home environments are unsafe and unhealthy. And whereas working together, we can prevent the situations that compel youth to run away from home. Prevention means assisting them in discovering the delicate balance of life-saving skills. Awareness, what it means to run away and why running away will not solve their problems. Resources, how to build a safety net of trusted people and organizations to turn to for help. Communication, how to speak and listen effectively, and stress management, how to reduce or manage stressors and solve problems. And whereas the future well-being of our nation is dependent on the value we place on our young people, we must provide opportunities for youth to acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary to develop into healthy and productive adults. We must also enlist their families and other adults in the community to serve as mentors and role models for young people, guiding them toward wise choices and available resources and supports. Young people with the least access to these essential opportunities and supports are those in runaway and homeless situations. And whereas the first step in preventing youth from making the decision to run is gathering an understanding of the facts about runaway youth in order to dispel the myths, then we must empower families and communities to aid our nation's youth in protecting themselves and assuring them of the opportunities and support necessary for their success. Finally, we must challenge adults to act as mentors and role models for youth, guiding them toward available resources and safe, healthy, and productive choices. And whereas we encourage and support the efforts of the community-based, faith-based, and public organizations in our community who are working diligently to increase public awareness about, advocate on behalf of, and provide positive and safe alternatives to runaway and homeless youth and their families. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby declares the month of November as National Runaway Prevention Month in Pasco County and encourages people to support young people who have run away or who are at high risk of doing so by developing a personal relationship with them, teaching them skills that promote positive life choices, providing a safety net of trusted friends, adults, and resources to them, and being available to them as they transition to adulthood. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November 2018, signed by the board.
Move approval.
Second?
I had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
And,
Welcome.
you know, I've always had a fond place for the Wrap House, and every year I bring them a huge plate of home-baked cookies from all my friends. And one of the things we're so lucky that we have a place like this in our county. And one of the things I think is so cool about the Wrap House is that we have all these different service organizations that come in and help prepare the meals. So when you're saying your words, please talk about that too, because I think it'll inspire others.
Yeah. Thank you. On behalf of all those at Wrap House, the staff, and all the staff of YFA, the Board of Directors, we want to thank all of you for all your support. We truly believe that it takes a community to raise a child. And the children that we see, a lot of the times, are really troubled and struggling. I don't get to say this very often, but my sister was a runaway, spent some time in a shelter, and it saved her life. And I got to say that from that perspective, I know what it feels like to be a family member of a sister who is troubled. Without programs like the Wrap House, without the support of you folks in this county and the staff, we couldn't do what we do. And when I talk about the community, one of the things that you were saying, Commissioner Starkey, was, we have a whole bunch of people who come into our community. Your cookies are well received, trust me. We really appreciate it. But we have a lot of civic organizations that come and do Cook for Kids. They come and spend some time. And it's time that folks from our community get to see these children. But more importantly, it's for these children who get to see adults, sometimes in a different light, where they're taking the time to sit and listen and talk to them. And without that, we can't be successful. So we want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, if you'll come down and let's say thank you. One more to me. Too many.
Excuse me, Mark, before you sit down, could you just state your name and organization for the record? Thank you.
My name is Mark Wickham. I work for Youth and Family Alternatives.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more resolution today on human sex trafficking and slavery and working against that. Yeah, please come forward. Thank you. Resolution number 1939, whereas human sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery and occurs when an individual is recruited, harbored, obtained, or exported through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of sexual exploitation. And whereas Florida consistently ranks third in the nation for the number of calls made to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, human sex trafficking is growing throughout Pasco County, Florida, and the United States, thriving in cities across geographic and socio-demographic variability, and nationally, the criminal enterprise of human trafficking is second only to the illegal drug trade in terms of speed of its growth and being among the most lucrative. And whereas human sex trafficking significantly threatens the safety and well-being of the child victims, some as young as infants, and often coming from the foster care system, and vulnerable adults being purchased, as well as families of buyers, legitimate businesses, and our communities. And whereas there is a growing body of evidence that targeting sex buyers is pragmatic, effective way to reduce demand with the commercial sex industry. And whereas our local community is uniting to combat this modern-day slavery and bring together nonprofits, government, and private sector businesses in prevention, prosecution, education, awareness efforts, and to restore freedom and dignity to survivors. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby declares that Pasco County will continue its efforts to combat the commercial sexual exploitation of our children and vulnerable adults, and mitigate the associated public safety, economic, and health risks to our community in collaboration with the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking, the Pasco County Commission on Human Trafficking, the Pasco County Sheriff's Office, and other anti-human trafficking organizations. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 27th day of November, 2018, signed by the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you all for getting this formally in writing. I know the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners, you all have been involved since day one for the Trafficking Free Zone program, which for the people in this room, the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking is a nonprofit faith-based organization headquartered here in Tampa, committed to combating the sex trafficking in the United States. So, and to do that, we've got a safe home dedicated to boys, underage male victims of sex trafficking. It's located here in Pasco County. That's one arm of what the U.S. Institute does. And the other arm would be the Trafficking Free Zone program. And so the whole premise behind it is to reduce the number of people who are willing to pay to have sex with trafficked victims. So reduce the demand. There are a lot of different ways to do this. It's a very complicated issue, as you may imagine. But Pasco County is really leading the charge in so many ways on this initiative, from you, the Board of County Commissioners, to the Pasco Sheriff's Office, to other nonprofit organizations here in this area. And so we want to thank you for your continued support in all of that. Just for the audience, for those of you who may not be super aware of human trafficking and how it manifests in the United States, as stated in the proclamation, Florida consistently ranks third in the nation for the number of calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. In 2017, the International Labor Organization estimated that there were 40.3 million victims globally of human trafficking. And so when you come to the national level, the United States, as reported by Polaris Project, leads all other nations globally in the demand, the consumption of human trafficking goods and victims. So we have a problem in the United States, and we are driving the demand for these victims. Tampa Bay, within Florida, consistently ranks within the top 3 or 4 regions for the number of calls to the hotline. And when we began the Trafficking Free Zone program in January of this year here in Pasco as the pilot county, we counted ads online just to figure out what's a baseline, what does the landscape look like in Pasco County specifically for sex trafficking. So over a 2-month period, we used 2 websites, and there are hundreds, and we filtered them down to the most narrow search criteria possible. One we could filter down to Pasco County specifically, and one we could get filtered down to Tampa Bay. And so over 60 days, we simply counted the ads that appeared on the sites. And these sites are specifically for the buying and selling of sex. Over those 2 months, we counted over 32,000 ads. So there is a problem here in Florida. There's a problem in Pasco County. It's not just Pasco County. It's nationally, globally. But I'm very proud of the work that we're doing here in Pasco and in Florida, and I'm very proud to be working with all of you. So thank you again. And we look forward to potentially having the staff of Pasco County all trained in human trafficking awareness, hopefully this year. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know, when I heard those statistics, it just turned my stomach. And a lot of work needs to be done in this area, and I'm so glad you're here and working on that. Anyone else?
I served on human trafficking committee with these girls, and it's great what's going on, because I'm telling you, the awareness of human trafficking in Pasco and in Florida is just amazing how things can turn around. And it turned around in Pasco, and the recognition they're telling you about is hard for you to understand. We're being recognized here in Pasco County for the work they're doing all over the nation.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing that we have that kind of an outreach in Pasco County. So it's very good.
Yeah.
All right, well, would everyone like to come down for our last time today? Great job.
All right, are we like grabbing?
I think I said you changed that to Gators.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, can you give these to everybody and take an update of all the stuff? Thank you. So good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm Stephanie Koslow with the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking. Thanks again. No problem.
That's number 12, yeah. Okay. At this time, we will proceed with the public hearing, starting with P1. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of P1?
We do. Tampa Bay Times, September 26, 2018.
Okay. Is someone presenting this?
Not everybody at once.
Yeah.
Denise doing it?
Denise is not
Who's
here,
presenting?
so who's covering it for Denise?
No action
there he
required.
is. He's hiding out over there. Oh, he doesn't know. Okay, maybe not.
We were asked to cover it in December.
Don can do it. Don's ready to do it.
Yeah, Don's used to being on TV. He got it.
Yeah. This is a signs.
Actually, it's my fault, Commissioners. I have the draft agenda, and I'm P2 on the draft agenda, but I was elevated to P1, so here I am.
Okay.
Elizabeth Blair, Pasco County Attorney's Office, on behalf of Denise Hernandez, who's on a well-deserved vacation. Today, this is the final public hearing on an amendment to the Land Development Code to change the dwell time on our digital signs for the large tourist attractors from 60 seconds to 15 seconds. I'll go ahead and read the title of the ordinance. An ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners amending the Pasco County Land Development Code, providing for amendments to Section 406.1 signs, providing for applicability, repeal or severability, inclusion into the Land Development Code, and an effective date. As today is the public hearing, I ask that you accept public comment, and after so, adopt the proposed ordinance by a roll call vote. Authorize the chairman to execute the ordinance amendment and direct board records to transmit to the Department of State by electronic mail within 10 days. Is there any questions regarding this matter?
Any questions? Okay, there's
Thank
no
you.
action required, so.
No, roll call votes
Public-
required.
okay.
This is the
A
final
public
adoption
comment.
hearing,
It
but you need
is.
to take public comment if
Oh,
there is
okay.
any. Thank you.
Is anyone here to speak to P1? Seeing no one?
No, it's,
No,
this is
no
first-
action
first
required.
reading.
So we'll
No.
move on to P2.
No, no.
Yes, this is the final.
But I do want to comment
Oh, you
that
got a comment,
I
okay.
will be voting no. Again, I find these kind of signs, I think they're garish, and I think it's dangerous when you change the face so quickly, and there's a lot of data out there, so that these are dangerous, takes the driver's eye off the road, and so I'll be voting no.
This is the first.
All right, P2, is there a notification on P2?
Don't we need to do the vote?
No,
No, this
vote.
is the first hearing.
It's the first
Oh,
hearing.
I'm sorry.
That's what.
You said it was a roll call vote.
We do have proof of P2 Tampa Bay Times, October 28th, 2018, November 4th, November 11th, and November 18th of 2018.
It says approved.
It does. It does, Commissioner. Before we
We've
move
heard this
on,
before.
the agenda memo does say that this is an action item, not P1 on the agenda cover sheet says no action required, but the uploaded memo says that this is the final hearing.
Yeah, I thought we
So
had it
which-
in Richie already.
Which is it? So,
Victorios Pitos with Planning and Development. It's my understanding that this is the first reading of this
I
item.
don't think so.
So it's no action.
I think this is our second. Why don't we come back to
This
it?
this was previously brought up to the Board of County Commissioners to provide direction to go ahead and do this.
check, for the time being, let's figure it out. You can reconsider your action if this is the final hearing on it.
This is advertised for the final public hearing. Yes, the ad says
Just state your name, please, for the record. Thank you.
Elizabeth Blair, Pasco County Attorney's Office. So this was noticed as a second public hearing. Your first public hearing was held on October 23rd in Newport Richey.
Yeah, which I think I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so there is action required then?
Right.
It's a roll call vote?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Move approval first. Second.
Okay.
Okay, it's a roll call vote.
So it's a roll call vote? and-
Okay, I'm going to try this different order. District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
No.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye.
Okay, 4-1. Thank you.
Motion passed 4-1. Okay. And we'll move forward to P2. That,
Okay, I did already say the
okay.
publication dates. Thank
All
you.
right.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is David Sewer, Public Works Department.
Mr. Chairman, and Mr. County Attorney too, before we get started. So there's two items for this. There's P2 and then there's
P2 and 22.
and P22. We're going to take them
Can
both
we
up at
take
once?
both of them?
No, we can't take them both up at once. You have to act on the ordinance first.
We
and
act
then
on the
and-
first one, then take the second one
Why-
right after?
You can,
Why can't we can't wait and act on the ordinance? At-
the ordinance has to
After.
be enacted before
Yes.
you can enact
And I
the,
understand that, but
Yeah, we take up 2,
well,
and then we'll go to 20.
well, I'm saying we can put them in later, but that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm using common sense over here, but.
Go ahead.
Plantation Palms MSBU. This is an ordinance creating the Plantation Palms Municipal Service Benefit Unit, providing for boundaries, providing for levy of non-ad valorem special assessments, providing for the municipal services to be funded, providing for severability and an effective date. The project area is located in the southeast quadrant of the Collier Parkway Boulevard intersection. It's bounded to the north by the Lake Paget Estates East residential community, and to the south by the Plantation Palms community. It is a major drainage flowway. Water flows from west to east. The purpose of the MSBU is to fund the project that will restore the Plantation Palms ditch. The ditch is owned by the HOA. although the county has has an easement over it. The purpose of the MSBU, like I said, is supposed to fund the restoration of the drainage ditch, which the current condition looks like the photograph you see to the left. The HOA needs the county's assistance to fund the project. The proposed MSBU and project are the result of a previously approved settlement agreement between the Plantation Palms HOA and the county. The plans for the design of the restoration works was put together by a local consultant, Coastal Design Consultants. And the bids are already out, advertised, and will be closing on December 14th. The project will cost approximately $3 million, and we have not been successful in getting SWIFMUD and FEMA funding for the project. Gabion baskets are proposed, and the pictures to the right show you what they look like. Interest rate. The HOA has 821 members who will be assessed. The period for funding is over 30 years, and the interest rate that the Public Works Department is recommending is 3%, which will make the individual assessment per member to be just under $200 per year. The tax collector, Mr. Fasano, has said that his office is going to waive the normal 2% that they charge in administrative costs for projects of this type. That's literally it.
Okay, any questions?
I'll wait till after public comment.
Hmm?
I'll wait until after public comment.
Okay. Is anyone here to speak to P2? Come forward and please give your name and address.
Sure. My name is Jim Hammond. My address is 23742 Plantation Palm Boulevard in Land O'Lakes. Thank you. I'm president of the Plantation Palm Homeowners Association, and I'm here to represent and talk on behalf of 821 homeowners and 7 board members, 2 of which are here with me today. We've been working as an HOA board on this problem for many years to come up with a solution to the problem. I can tell you that the board the HOA board unanimously supports MSBU being proposed, as do, I'm sure, the vast majority of our homeowners. As sort of proof of that, on October 22nd, we conducted an MSBU workshop and invited the county to attend. And we had a great turnout for our community. We had over 150 homeowners show up, which for us is almost the size of our annual meeting. So a great show. And we were pleased that the outcome was actually very good. It was a very positive meeting, and we were fortunate to have both Assistant County Attorney Nikki Spiritos there and David Sua to answer questions and clear up some misunderstandings. And you could just tell by the tone of the people there, you know, it's sort of an ugly situation, but we have to deal with it, so we hopefully can. One of the things we explained to our homeowners was that the MSBU, even though the cost would be bore by our community alone, we have been reserving, just in the last couple of years, some of our annual HOA dues. And so if the board does approve the 3% interest rate, that pretty much coincides with what we would be able to reduce our annual dues by. So the net effect, cash out of pocket, by assuming this total responsibility just on behalf of our HOA, would be pretty much cash neutral over a period of time to our homeowners. So that was important. So hopefully we have some successful, qualified county bids. It's a good sized job in the county. So hopefully we'll get to somebody from the county to have a qualified bid. And I think it's important, and hopefully at the January 8th meeting, that the board approve a bid and the start of construction. We don't have a lot of time to do construction before the start of the hurricane season and our normal summer rains, which cause erosion in the first place. So I want to thank you so much for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else to speak to P2 from the public? Seeing no one?
So move for approval.
I'll second with discussion. I'll second with discussion.
Okay. Got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Discussion.
I'll let the motion maker first.
Pardon me?
I'll let the motion maker go first if he wants.
No, I just, great job with the staff and the team. Great job, working with the HOA, Jim out there and Simon over there. It's something that needed to be taken care of. You had a potential of homes actually falling into a canal, if you want to call it a canal, or ditch. Right. Unfortunately, I will say, I don't think we should ever stop asking for assistance from Swift Mud. Past Chairman Maggard really went to bat for the residents with Swift Mud, but unfortunately, some of the other Swift Mud board members from other counties did not see that there was a benefit for them and their constituents. But I think we keep going to bat for them and see if we can offset some of this in the future. But obviously, again, great job again to the HOA of coming up with a plan to basically offset the cost for their residents. So it's going to be, like you mentioned, more of a cash neutral type of situation, or cost neutral type of situation. So I'm glad, and hopefully we'll see this move forward. I know we have another vote towards the end of the meeting.
And Commissioner Moore, I think you did a great job working this all the way through. I know there was a lot of emails going back and forth at some point, so I know you're on top of it. And glad staff did such a good job. And I agree with your point. I think we should go after, continue to go after that Swift Mud funding, or if there's FEMA funding, whatever the case may be. It's a great community. They've got the golf course running now, so it's just a fantastic place to be. If we can help them out with what water management really is, I think we should keep on trying.
Yeah, good point.
All right. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign.
This is a roll call vote.
Oh, it's a roll call vote.
It is. District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Pass 5-0. Thank you. Can we now go to P22?
You can bring P22 up forward if you wish.
Okay. I'd like to bring P22 forward.
Thank you.
I do have proof.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Times, October 28th, November 4th, November 11th, and November 18th of 2018.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Plantation Palms, MSBU, uniform method of collection. Resolution adopting the uniform method of collection for the Plantation Palms, MSBU. This is a resolution by the board of Pasco County, Florida, setting forth the intention to use the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem special assessments for the Plantation Palms MSBU in accordance with section 197.3632 Florida statutes, providing for the need for said assessments, providing for a legal description of the real property subject to the levy of the assessment, providing for severability and an effective date. The resolution serves as a notice to property owners that future property tax bills will contain the assessment to be paid annually. Written agreements between the board of county commissioners and the property appraiser and the board and the tax collector, providing for reimbursement of necessary administrative costs for the collection of the assessments will be brought to the board at a future date. The tax collector, Mr. Fasano, again, like I said before, has indicated he will waive, his office will waive the administrative fees for this project.
That's everything? Okay, we have a motion on this.
Well, you got a public comment.
This is you're still in public hearing, so.
Oh, excuse me. Is anyone here to speak to P22?
Seeing none, move for approval.
Second.
Okay. I got a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign, nay. All right, I'll pass. Okay. Move on to P3.
Was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, August 3rd and August 22nd of 2018.
Mary Duke, Long Range Planning. This is item P3, Gulf Breeze Manor. This is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for CPAL 1805. This project encompasses 15 parcels with 14 property owners as correctly identified in the agenda memo and the proposed ordinance. This is a proposal to amend the future land use designation of Res 12, Res 9, and ROR to a planned development with sub-area policies. The project is located south of Beach Boulevard, west of US 19, east of First Isle Street, and north of Bear Creek. The proposed plan development includes commercial, office, employment center, high-density residential, retail, restaurants, bars, administrative offices, ecotourism uses, recreational resort uses, and facilities. The proposed plan development does not increase the intensity or density that is not already allowed in the Res 12, Res 9, or ROR flues, the existing flues. This is a staff-initiated comprehensive plan amendment in order to support the harbor's redevelopment infill plan. This amendment is located within the Hudson District of the harbors, and it will assist in redevelopment of the blighted Leisure Lanes parcel that has been vacant for many years. The amendment will help facilitate redevelopment of 3 parcels that have 2 flues on each parcel, and also increase redevelopment opportunities and new development within the Gulf Breeze Manor area. Here's a map of the location. Beach Boulevard is to the north. First Isle Street is to the west. US 19 is to the east. And the Bear Creek Canal is to the south. The current land use on the property is commercial and services, vacant lands, and stormwater ponds. And the site is approximately 32.22 acres with approximately 8.23 vacant acres. The surrounding zoning and land uses to the north is high-density residential, commercial services, and Beach Boulevard. To the south is commercial services, open land, hardwood conifer mixed, and Bear Creek. To the east is US 19 arterial and commercial and services, and to the west is First Isle Street and residential high density, as depicted on this aerial map. Here's a definition of the PD plan development in the comprehensive plan. And the general range of potential uses within PD flues includes mixed-use developments, residential developments with a range of unit types and densities, non-residential developments such as office, commercial, and industrial, etc. So the proposed flue is PD plan development.
Yeah, sure.
And the proposed sub-area policy flue 7.1.45 is included in the proposed ordinance as Exhibit C. It allows a maximum of 250,000 square feet of commercial, retail, office, employment center, ecotourism, recreational resort use and facilities, and 60 dwelling units. The proposed comp plan amendment to PD is consistent with the PD flu and with the comprehensive plan. No further amendments are necessary in conjunction with the proposed amendment, and impact fees will be collected and utilized by the county. Neighborhood meeting was held in early August on this project. It went before the Local Planning Agency on August 23rd, before the Board of County Commissioners transmittal meeting on September 17th, and it was transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity for their review. No significant comments were received. Excuse me. Sorry. A transportation needs assessment is not warranted. Pasco County Utilities has deemed that they will be able to provide adequate wastewater treatment services for this development. There's sufficient capacity within the county water system and Tampa Bay Water to provide potable water services. There were no reported concerns from police, fire, or schools regarding the proposed amendment, and there are no significant environmental concerns identified by natural resources. Our recommendation is to approve the proposed comprehensive plan amendment, CPAL 1805 Gulf Breeze Mander, amending the future land use Flue map 2-15, sheet 07, sub-area map 2-945, and providing for a text amendment creating the associated sub-area policy 7.1.45 Gulf Breeze Manor, and adopt the ordinance by roll call vote, and authorize the chair to execute the originals of the ordinance provided and direct the board records department to distribute as set forth in the distribution section of the agenda memo. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, just more of
Yes.
a comment than a question. Mary Ellen, you, Terry, the whole team, I think did a phenomenal job with this piece. I mean,
Thank
15 pieces of property, tough little section. Just because the land use is the way it was difficult for a good retail group to come in here. And I think you might see this thing going up and down. So we're taking an active approach to make it all happen so something good can come in that property. I just want to commend you for a great job.
Thank you so much.
Is this where that boat dealer was going to come in?
Yes.
Is that still happening, or?
We hope.
The MPUD is going to be considered later on today's agenda.
Okay.
Okay. It's a public hearing. Do I have anyone to speak to this item P3? Seeing no one?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor
Roll
say aye.
call vote.
Oh, excuse me, roll call vote.
6 months.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Pass. Motion passed, 5-0. P4, got
We do have publication, Tampa Bay Times, October 31st, 2018.
Board members, Christy Sims. This is a final public hearing to correct some garbled language in an ordinance that y'all passed on October 9th. One sentence in section 79-7, subsection B, was garbled, and so in an abundance of caution, we re-advertised and we're asking you to re-adopt the language. It is an ordinance by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, amending Chapter 79, demolition of slumber blighted structures, to correct language concerning the appeal process, providing for applicability, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing an effective date. Board members, I would advise that you accept public comment and then adopt the ordinance by roll call vote, authorize the chairman's signature to the ordinance, and direct board records to transmit the ordinance to the Department of State by electronic mail within 10 days after adoption of the ordinance.
Okay. I have no one signed up for P4. Is anyone here to speak to P4? If not, I entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Pass 5-0. P5.
We do have approved Tampa Bay Times, October 12th, 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notarios Pitos with Planning and Development. For the board this afternoon is item P5 regarding the 2017-2018 mobility fee update study. This really is the first hearing of the proposed amended ordinance. At this time, I'll go ahead and read the ordinance title. An ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners amending section 1302.2 mobility fees and Appendix A mobility fee definitions of the Pasco County Land Development Code in accordance with section 1302.2D review and update procedures to amend the mobility fee regulations, definitions, maps, and fee schedules, resulting in some mobility fee increases and decreases, to make additional amendments as necessary for internal consistency, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing an effective date. The purpose tonight is to accept public comment. No action is required by the board. As this is the first of 2 public hearings, the second hearing will be held on December 11, 2018 at 1:30 p.m. in Dade City. By way of some quick history and background, the Mobility Fee Update Study began at an October 2017 Board of County Commissioners workshop at which a number of initiatives were discussed, and we'll present on those shortly. In the ensuing months, the Mobility Fee Advisory Committee was formed and various preparation work was undertaken to facilitate the study. The Mobility Fee Advisory Committee held 5 meetings throughout 2018, with 1 in April, 2 in May, 1 in June, and 1 in August of this year. We'll cover the findings and recommendations in our presentation in just a moment. On September the 25th, the board held a workshop to review the work and recommendation of the Mobility Fee Advisory Committee. At the workshop, the board did request that we look into the fee rates for mini self-storage facilities, as well as urban apartments. At the October 25, 2018 local planning agency meeting, the LPA reviewed the work of the Mobility Fee Advisory Committee and found it to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommended approval. And the subsequent analysis on increasing fees for self-storage and urban apartments were discussed thereafter. The LPA voted to recommend increasing the fees for self-storage and voted to not increase the fees on urban apartments by way of removing the incentives. The ordinance before you, if adopted at the December 11 meeting, would take effect on February 1st, 2019. With me today to present the Mobility Fee Update Study is Bill Oliver, our consultant through AECOM, and Artie Monaco with Planning and Development Department. And with that introduction, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Oliver for his presentation.
Isn't this what we saw?
Thanks, Terry. And the presentation I have today is largely very much the same as the presentation we did in that September 25th workshop. There's a few additional slides to deal with the urban apartments and the self-storage and mini warehouse
Mr. Chairman?
facilities.
Sorry.
Yes.
We saw this in the workshop. Can we just go over the new slides?
I was
Hold
going
on.
to...
Is it?
Mr. Steinschneider? We went over this whole,
Mr. Goldstein will respond.
let's go over the new slides.
Yes, I'm fine with that, if you just want to cover the new slides.
Yes. You guys good with that?
How many slides are we talking about?
I have 19 slides. I think 2 are new.
Yeah, go with the new ones. We already saw this.
Just skip to the new ones?
My only thought is it's a public hearing and maybe not everyone got to see
The workshop is public.
I'll defer to
This is your first hearing on this ordinance. The slides are part of the public record if it were challenged. So if the board doesn't wish to go through all the slides, they don't have to.
Okay.
The only thing I would ask the board is we do need some direction today on the urban apartment issue.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to change those rates, we need to do it before the next
Well, I'll be
hearing.
coming back to you with that.
Okay.
Okay.
In that case, I will fast forward to
We're
those
good with that.
slides. So, let's see here. Back up. All right, well, this is the first new slide, which deals with the mini warehouse issue. It was pretty much a unanimous recommendation of the board that we remove any incentives for development to the mini warehouse land use. The resulting change in the fee per 1,000 square feet is indicated in this table. In the urban and suburban district, those fees will increase by about $100 per 1,000 square feet, from $400 to $500. In the rural district, there was actually a pretty hefty incentive provided, and so the fee increase in the rural district is much more substantial. The footnote says I have gone back and double-checked all those numbers. They are correct. So let me just pause and see if y'all have any comments there.
The Planning Commission unanimously approved?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Question. Go ahead.
So where I feel we want to discourage mini warehouses are along the 54-56 corridor. There are other places in the county that I think are appropriate and we wouldn't want to discourage. I think they serve a purpose for the community. So is there a way to just single this out for on certain types of roads?
No. I mean,
No, the answer is no, but you could just increase the urban district. That is something you could do, but
that would be everywhere in the urban
But
district.
that would be everywhere in the urban district.
You've got to treat your fees uniformly throughout the county, except for urban, suburban, rural.
all right, so if you wanted to just raise the mini storage fees in the urban fee district, yes, that could be done. We can't do it just for a particular road, though.
Well, then if that's the best we can do, I would recommend that if we can't limit it even further, but I would move that we limit this to the urban district.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
may, as I said this morning to the commissioner, this is an issue of land use and zoning. If your intent is not to have these sort of uses on those corridors, then you need to direct your planning staff to bring back code and comp plan amendments or an overlay district that does that. Trying to use a fee structure is probably not the best way to accomplish it.
But don't we use fee structures to incentivize certain things? And so I don't understand your thinking there. We're using the fee structure to incentivize certain types of development.
Yeah, yes, you can remove the incentive, but I think that's what you're doing. I think Jeff's point is that just removing that incentive is not going to stop many storage facilities from locating on the 54 corridor.
Well, I think we need to do both.
Okay.
And that's fine. I mean, if this board's direction is not to incentivize mini storage in the urban fee district, you can do that. That's not, but to get to the point that you've brought up, you really need to do that through a land use and zoning process.
And I don't know why it has to come before us, because I think this board has said it numerous times that we wanted to do that, but that has not come before us. This is what's before us now.
Okay, so.
Mr. Chairman?
You might want to take public comment before you make any motions. That's the only thing I would ask you to do.
Well, we don't make any motions today, it's just discussion.
Well, I heard a motion being made, so
But he
that's
was
why I'm.
starting to.
I didn't get a second.
We
We didn't get
I
back to
agree with Commissioner Starkey's statements, but I think we just give direction, and you bring it back to us next time about any changes to this. Correct?
Yes.
Correct. It's not a motion. Direction.
But even for direction, I prefer that you take public comment first.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman.
Mariano?
You know, Commissioner Stark, I think you're right on the money about doing the discouraging, but I think land use is the ultimate way to go. And we just passed an ordinance that was bad land use decision-making, the way it was set up from years and years ago. I think it's probably real simple to get staff to just do an overlay right along that 54, 56 corridor and just keep them eliminated, and that won't affect your revenue stream that comes in.
I think we need to do both. I think, you know, heck, you might see what happened with the billboards. People are gonna rush out and lock up sites for storage.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Do we need to hear, you got another slide that's, we need to see?
Not related to the mini warehouses. This is it for mini warehouse. I do have others for the urban apartments.
Okay.
Y'all ready?
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, so then the other discussion y'all had in that workshop was whether or not to remove the incentives for multifamily apartments in the urban district only. So that conversation was restricted to the urban district. What I've provided here, you have different forms of development. You have your standard apartments, which is probably what you're seeing most of right now. You have a mudroom, a TND, and a TOD, which reflect different mixtures of land uses and densities. The fees for the mudroom, TND, and TOD are set as a percentage of what we call the standard fee. So if a change is made to the standard fee, the mudroom, TND, and TOD fees would follow suit in their relative proportions. The current fees are in the second column of that table, $39.71 for the standard apartment. If you were to remove the incentives, those fees would increase by 8% to $4,280 for the standard, and then the subsequent fees there shown below. And then the dollar amount of the actual dollar amount of the fees themselves are shown in that next column. All of them result in an 8% increase in the fee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I'll bring this up. I'll wait till after public comment too to ask the board's support for any changes. But I know there was a little bit of discussion, some back and forth on this one. We didn't come to a full agreement on this item. So what I'm looking at discussing further, and what I would end up proposing was to move forward with getting rid of the incentives, but any current MF zonings or entitlements would be grandfathered in. So if somebody already has their entitlements for MF, they'd be grandfathered in. Any new MF zonings or an increase in entitlements would lose their incentives.
That's just not something I'm in agreement with. I think the multifamily serves an important need in our community for people who can't afford the homes or are moving here and not ready to buy a home, or people moving out of their bigger homes. So I think the market will dictate whether these get built or not.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So, and I appreciate the commissioner's statements to that, and that's why I did state that anybody that currently has their entitlements, and if you were to ask the planning staff, there are quite a few entitlements are currently out there already. They will be able to go ahead and incur those incentives. And one of the things I thought about was, I understand that some people have already budgeted for their projects, and increasing the fees at this time could have a negative impact when they've already budgeted for that. I get it. So they'd be grandfathered in. And in 5 years from now, if you want to change it and get rid of if we feel that we're even more saturated than we are now, which I feel we're oversaturated on the 54, 56 corridor especially, you can get rid of those incentives totally after that. But so I met you in the middle.
Has the mobility fee community discuss that?
This was never brought up in the stakeholders meetings. The recommendation, at y'all's request, the recommendation did go to your planning commission. They expressed concerns with the economic recovery, housing costs in general, and also being competitive with Hillsborough County's new mobility fees.
What was their vote on that? Was it a unanimous vote, David?
I believe it was 5-1. There was only one planning commission member that supported removing the incentive.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Again, going back to what I just stated, just to reiterate, if anybody currently has those entitlements, they'll be able to still have the incentives. So anybody that's out there now that already planned for this, it's not going to affect them. It's anybody that's new that's coming in that's asking for a rezoning and new entitlements, that's who will not be able to have their incentives.
Chairman.
There's enough on the board already.
You want to?
So I have areas on the west side that don't have any, and that I may not be ready to come in yet. I'm thinking of some of the property at Grand and 54, maybe some other, we're going to see one today that it's not on 54, but I'm also thinking how 56 is getting extended all the way to 301. And I would think that some of that community would like some nice new apartments, and maybe they can get, but they won't get won't get a incentive. Hey, we're incentivizing hotels to $5,000 a room. That makes less sense than this does to me. That we wouldn't charge something for a hotel, but you have to. I get it that it's kind of full between Little Road and maybe Bruce B. Downs. I don't think there's even room for many more over there, but some of the other areas, there's still a need. I'm thinking 56, the new 56, and I'm thinking of going further west. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. So in reference to the hotels, I think if you ask anybody from the TC or tourism director, they'll say there's still a need for additional hotels in Pasco County because, in Pasco County because of obviously the increase in tourism and the projects that are going on that's going to bring more people to the area. And when we keep it in Pasco County, we actually get a return on our investment with the TDT dollars, which we're able to spend on projects that you like and other commissioners like too.
Yeah, but I don't think we are gonna get $5,000 a room worth of tourist development money. For a $100 room, you're already getting $4, so I don't know.
I think
But,
maybe
anyway.
explain those.
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
If I could, and I'll give you a second, but in this case, again, I've said it over and over, the market decides. I'm a strong believer that it's the market, so I agree with Commissioner Starkey on this. You know, if anything, it needs to go back to that board for them to study it and look at the positives and negatives. You know, Commissioner Moore just talked about the hotels and the TDC and but we don't really know about the multifamily, the impact. That's not something that we should make a decision here today. If they go back to the mobility fee, their board, and they want to look at it and study it, obviously it's going to take more time, but at this time, I mean, I agree with the Planning Commission on this.
Mr. Chairman, so I did give you proof. I provided each one of you proof on this board, and I gave you a pretty thick report, and if anybody read it, they'll see that they figured, I mean, that's why I provided the report to you. And it's a pretty thorough report.
It was, but the folks that are in that business, the experts, the visionaries are saying otherwise.
Those are the
That's what I'm hearing
those are the experts.
I'm just telling you what I'm hearing in our community, and again, multifamily, that's just my personal opinion.
There's still need out there. Okay.
All right, Commissioner, I think it's going to be up to you on that one, hopefully. You'll see my light, right?
Mr. Chairman, to address some of Commissioner Starkey, you mentioned on the west side of the county, the harbors area already has the redevelopment incentive, and as part of this amendment to the ordinance, it would also be a vacant lot incentive that would probably take care of a lot of the multifamily redevelopment that would take place. This particular urban apartments incentive reduction would basically impact the areas along 54 East, essentially outside of the harbors. The urban service areas outside of harbors.
Right, and how far east is 56 going?
56 would go much farther than the
6.5
urban service
miles.
area.
So we're not gonna encourage townhomes or
No,
garden
we're
homes
going to pull
or?
townhomes out.
The urban district is the L-shaped on the west side and across the south border of the county, so almost.
That map does not show 56 extending.
Yes, just stop right there right now. It's not on there right now. The coloring has it covered all the way to 301, but
So if we're saying that in the urban area, then we're not gonna put any apartments up in Hudson, then then the ones at the mall would.
They're in the urban.
The malls
service.
in the urban,
Well,
yeah,
but
we're
the-
saying.
In the harbor's plan, they're in that, so it wouldn't affect that.
Okay, all right.
So this would really impact just the areas east of harbors.
Yeah, so
They're even more
Zephyr
incentivized.
Hills and all that area wouldn't get any multifamily.
Zephyr Hills.
56 is
Right.
going all the way to 301.
Because trust me, I worked on the plane. I think I know.
So are you saying they're exempt? What am I missing? Aren't we taking away this,
it's in the green, urban.
everything in the yellow would not be,
All right, we get it. You like apartments, so let's move on.
I don't,
We'll do it. And then
That was
we-
kind
and
of
then
rude.
next-
That was
well,
kind of rude.
No, you like them. That's fine. You're
it's
encouraged
not
by
whether
it.
I like them or not. Do I think there's a use in the community for people who can't afford a house in a gated community? Yes, I do.
But when you become oversaturated in a certain market, down the road, you're going to have major problems.
If we're
Again-
oversaturated, they won't build them.
Oh, my God.
I'm not sure we're oversaturated on the east side in
So-
that particular area. So.
Yes.
Before Bill stops his presentation, he did the Planning Commission was very interested in what the apartment fees were in surrounding jurisdictions. And so we had Bill prepare this little chart that shows you what they are, and I'm gonna let him explain it.
Okay, right, so the fees for Pasco County, the apartments, which are the current fee, the current standard fees, in the urban, suburban, and rural districts at in that first column, 3971, 5845 in suburban, 6694. We're only talking about the 3971 here, the urban fee. Pinellas County's fee, they have a downtown district which really isn't physically close to Pasco County, so the 1420 is the area in northern Pinellas with which Pasco would be competing. Hillsborough County's got an interesting situation. They have two districts, an urban district and a rural district. Their boundaries, portions of your southern boundary abut their rural district, other portions abut their urban district. So the 2883 and the 4183 are both apartment rates of which a Pasco apartment developer would be competing with. The thing that you need to be aware of here, though, and that I actually didn't fail to tell the Planning Commission, is that Hillsborough County is in the middle of a transition process. Last year, they were charging 50% of their fees. In 2018 calendar year, they were charging 70% of the fee. Starting January 1st of 2019, they'll be going up to 80% of the fee. January 1st the following year to 90% of the fee. So that fee, those fees will be increasing. The 2883 ultimately goes up to $3,222, which will still be lower. But the urban fee, apartment fee, will actually go to $5,378 over 2 years, and it will be higher than what Pasco charges. So Pasco's fees would be still in between Hillsborough's urban and rural fee.
Well, so Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
But so you just stated that you did not explain that to the Planning Commission.
Yes.
And that was part of the reasoning for their vote, and how they voted was because of the fee schedule you explained to them. So that very much could have changed their vote. I mean, really, that's an oversight, my friend.
Yes.
It's a huge oversight.
Yeah, the question came
So
up.
does this need to go back to them now? I'm thinking it does.
The question came up during the discussion. I went to Hillsborough's website and picked off their 2018 fee, but didn't realize they were in that transition.
Well, it was just explained to this board that part of the decision-making was based on the fees with Hillsborough County. So they were told something different than what you're telling us now.
Yes.
So, but I'm not sure it's fair to say that was the only reason they voted.
It was
the
part
way
of the
they
reason.
did. It was a factor, but there was a long discussion at the Planning Commission about this fees. This was probably 5 minutes of that discussion. There was a much larger discussion about apartments and affordable housing and transit and some other factors that they considered. This was just one of many factors they considered. So yes, Bill made a mistake when he quoted the Hillsborough fees, but I don't think that was the only reason they voted the way they did.
The Planning Commission voted 5-1 on this.
Yes. I mean, I'm not saying the board can't send it back to the Planning Commission. I just don't want to make it sound like that was the only reason they voted the way they did.
Right.
But it was stated that was one of the reasons they voted the way they did.
It certainly was a factor, yes.
Okay.
So, I think that puts us in a precarious position.
Let me clarify that. So I think the factor they were considering was that Hillsborough's fees are currently lower than Pasco's. And so I think their concern was that if you raise Pasco's, it's going to have a greater disparity between the Pasco fees and the Hillsborough fees, and that's who our direct competition is with. Even if Hillsborough's fees go up, I think as Bill just said, they're still going to be lower than Pasco's. So I'm not sure. That's why I'm not sure it would have. I'm not sure it would have changed their vote, because I think that the issue was that they looked at Hillsborough's fees, saw they were lower, and said, "Why are we making a greater disparity?" There will still be a disparity even if Hillsborough's fees go up.
Right. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So again, there's some great projects, great apartment projects along the 54, 56 corridor all over the county. Again, the fear is oversaturation, and just what Commissioner Stark, you brought up earlier, you referenced the mini storage along 54 and 56 that should be used for job creating opportunities there. And that's where the majority of those you're seeing is along 54, 56 with the apartments too. So it's likewise to the mini storage situation you spoke of. I think it's also important to note that the senior apartments will not be affected by these increases, correct?
That is correct.
Right. Which I'm very much of a proponent on, because we need more of that in Pasco County right now because of our aging population. Again, you gotta look at the certain areas, we gotta look at the market, where's the oversaturation taking place? That's where the issue lies, and that's where we're gonna be hit by that in 5 or 10 years.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore, what if we took a look like storage units and we took a look at the land use in that area? Where you're most concerned with it? I mean, and I agree with your points there. I just don't want to leave out a market where it could be out by, 301 that may need some apartments as this thing extends out. In the Wesley Chapel area, maybe we get enough. Would you consider looking at a land use change to actually find out where these apartment complexes can go?
I mean, I would consider that too, sure. But again, going back to, there's a lot of entitlements already out there along that corridor. So we're not going to change that, If they already have the entitlements, they already have the entitlements. That's wrong to take them away. It's for anybody else new down the road, my proposal, coming in, that wants to increase the entitlements or change the zoning and add those entitlements to them.
Okay.
Not taking away from anybody that's already gone through the process whatsoever.
Commissioner Starkey?
So we just had a project come up, I think it's Clark's project, where it's on I think it's the Orsi property on 54, between Little and Seven Springs, where we're going for a grant for low-income senior housing. Would other projects like that be affected with this? I know that one's senior housing. What if we had low-income, just workforce housing, some of these projects that we get from the state?
Yeah, no,
the
low income, the state housing initiative program, the SHIP program, this fee discussion would not affect those fees.
So they're exempt from mobility fees?
They're not exempt, they just have a significantly reduced fee.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay.
I see some of the people that deal with these want to speak. This is a public hearing, so.
Are you finished?
I am.
Okay, thank you. All right, public hearing. Mr. Hobby?
Mr. Chairman, Clark Hobby, 109 North Brush Street, Tampa, Florida. I just want to point out a couple things. Obviously, Commissioner Moore, I know you feel very passionately about this issue, and I respect your opinion there. But I would say a couple of things. I have a couple of projects that are in mid-process for MPUDs but are not approved now that are in the urban service area, one of which is a substantial modification to an MPUD that's existed for a long time, that's very large, and I want the ability on a small portion of it to have potential multifamily on there. It's a 2,000 unit development, and we may have 200, 300 multifamily units in one area. I don't think it's fair that we get caught up and have to pay additional fee increases. And in a larger sense, there are two other issues. One, I was on this mobility fee committee. We didn't know this was an issue. We considered the stuff that the board asked us to look at very carefully. We both looked at the micro issues about the propriety of any given rates, but we also considered the overall fee revenue and expenditures to some degree. And this is a major deal to take on without giving the mobility fee committee a chance to even consider the issue. And then lastly, just on a macro issue, I just want the board to understand you have numerous policies in the comp plan and the future land use element. They're encouraging additional density in the urban service area, and you actually have a percentage of your future growth that's supposed to go in the urban service area. And then you adopted a mudroom code that's all but requiring multifamily if the staff tells you need to go mudroom. So we are at cross purposes. If on one hand you're saying we want to tax multifamily to the point where it can't be built, but on the other hand you're telling us we have to build it. And it's just, we're not making a whole lot of sense if we go down this route. And I would appreciate the board considering that and the plight that we're in as we try to navigate the approval process, because we're trying to follow the comp plan and we're trying to follow your code, which are telling us for more density, and now you're saying that you just want suburban sprawl in the urban service area. We go down that route. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? Please state your name and address.
Nancy Hazelwood, 34110, a nice place. Thank you for reminding me. I went to several of these meetings, found them very interesting. I have some suggestions. I'd like to see more normal citizens on the committees, and it's a very complex subject, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. As far as this, I hope you take into consideration that 30 years down the road, what are the apartment buildings going to look like? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Schrader, state your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Ted Schrader, 31306 Pasco Road. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. If I could, if the board would indulge me, I'd like to deviate a little bit from the discussion, but it obviously pertains to the topic at hand. And Commissioner Starkey and Commissioner Mariano, I think you were both on the board when we adopted and passed the award-winning Villages of Pasadena Hills plan. That plan was welcomed and accepted because of the surcharges that were imposed as part of that plan and the adoption. And I don't think it was any kind of an oversight. The plan was approved at that time with the cooperation and the funding resources of the property owners group. And unfortunately, this time, they have sort of fragmented and parted their ways, and so there's not a real funding mechanism to update those surcharges. I've had some conversations with the Assistant County Attorney, David Goldstein, and David tells me that there is funding available in the TIF fund in that geographic region, and those resources could be used to help update the surcharges for the mobility fee. And then the TIF funding could be repaid with the development fees that would be assessed as those projects come before the Pasco County Planning Review staff. So I would just simply request that you direct staff to consider using that methodology. Apparently, there's a meeting, I believe, planned sometime for the first part of December where they're going to be meeting with some of the representatives of the property owner group. When the original plan was adopted, there was some major capital projects, specifically the realignment of State Road 52, the interchange improvements to the Overpass Road and to I-75 that are now being funded either by the state or the county. And hopefully, it's our hope that because those capital projects are funded from other resources, that it will help to reduce the mobility of surcharges in that geographic region, making the VOPH more competitive to the surrounding communities that are being developed. So I would just simply ask that you direct staff to bring an agenda item back to this board to be able to consider that. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing more from that from some other members of the property owner group, not here specifically today, but going forward. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, so David, can you weigh in a little bit for us? David, we'll get David to weigh in too. So.
Yeah, so I think everything that former Commissioner Schrader said is correct. I think there is a funding source. Pasadena Hills has its own tax increment district. It's different from the countywide tax increment for transportation. It is ad valorem revenue. I believe that on an interim basis, it could be used to update the mobility fee surcharge for Pasadena Hills. And I believe it could also be repaid we have a special development review fee that is charged in Pasadena Hills that could pay back the TIF fund.
Okay.
I've also been told that that money is not committed for the overpass interchange. There's some of it is, but there's uncommitted funds in that TIF that could be used for that purpose.
I see. The
only reason staff can't just move forward is right now is there's a disagreement among the property owners about which consultant we're going to use to do the update. I think we have the money to do it, and we have a way to get it paid back, but we were originally proposing using Bill Oliver, who's our mobility fee consultant, to do it, and some of the property owners didn't want us to use that consultant. They wanted us to use Height, And we don't have a contract with Height. So that's a purchasing issue that needs to be worked out at a staff level. But if you're asking me the question, what he wants done, can it be done? Yes.
Okay.
We just have to figure out which consultant we're using.
Okay, so do we need to bring this back as an agenda item to have further discussion then? I would assume we do.
Well, if you're directing staff to retain a consultant to do this, that we have a process to retain consultants.
Well, that's what's supposed to happen anyways, during the process, correct?
It is, but
Okay.
there's an issue about whether we use our existing consultant or go out for an RFP to get one. I mean, that's a purchasing issue that staff normally handles.
So versus having that debate now, why don't we bring that back as an agenda item so we can have public input and further discussion?
I think we have a meeting scheduled here in the next few days, week, internally.
I believe so, yes.
Let us do that first and see what the results of that internal discussion, which I think is what's on the property owners.
But there's absolutely no debate about their surcharge needs to be updated.
Right.
We have money that we think we can do to do it. It's just a matter of who we're gonna pay to do it, which we can work that out.
Let's have our meeting first, and then if we need to bring something back, we can bring something to the board. But let's see if we can resolve that outside that. I think we can, I think we can do that.
Okay.
Barbara Wilhite, 2523 Permit Place, Newport, Florida, 34655. For myself, I speak. I would support what Commissioner Schrader is saying about Pasadena. I was part of that effort and worked with the county at that time, and what's being proposed is only fair to those property owners. They did pay a lot to get Pasadena where it is, and I think what's being proposed is fair to them. But we're here to talk about the mobility fee. Mobility fee went through a long process, a very good, transparent process, and kudos to staff, Maria Barbaro, who kept us all up to date for people that couldn't attend everything. I've sent her an email congratulating her on what a great job she's done. There's a lot of great things in that mobility fee that you all have come up with regard to redevelopment. Hearing it go backwards and potentially go to Planning Commission or go back to the advisory committee is just going backwards. Lots of unintended consequences when you start talking about mobility, the multifamily. It hasn't been vetted. I'd hate for you to do something that had unintended consequences that you couldn't even think of because that concept hasn't gone through the committee like a lot of the other things went through and were vetted. So I'd ask you to support what your Planning Commission recommended and move this forward, and let's see the great things that happen as a result of the things you've already agreed to.
Yeah. Anyone else speak public?
Can you change the screen back to not this screen, please? The other. Just go back one. Okay.
This one?
That one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you need a motion?
I'll need a motion in a second, yeah.
Do we take action today?
No.
So
no action?
You're not taking action in terms of approving all the changes to the regulation. However, you need some direction? We need some direction on mini storage and some direction on apartments, because if you want to change those fees, we have to do new fee schedules, and that can't be done at the meeting. I mean, that's something that takes some time to prepare. So if you want an increase in mini storage or you want an increase in apartments, that's something we really need to know today to be prepared for a final adoption in December.
So, yeah, a motion of direction probably is what we need to do that.
A motion for the direction?
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should start with mini storage, since that seemed to be the easier one.
Question for the administrator.
Okay.
How long would it take you to bring back that change in the land use for the mini storage?
Bring back, what do you mean by bring back?
Well, to bring us a change in the land use development code am I saying it right?
Oh, you're talking about zoning regulations.
To develop an overlay district for the 56 corridor.
54, 56.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you answer that question.
So an overlay district would take a few months to develop.
Why?
You'd probably want to reach out to the horizontal roundtable and various stakeholder groups we could put together that ordinance, take it through the ordinance development team, take it to the
Oh,
LPA.
no, that's the big black hole.
Well, that's the process.
I would disagree with that. I mean, they've done a lot of work over the last 18 months. They've done a lot of things through that. So I would say even if the ordinance was ready today, you have a 3-month public notification and meeting process between the planning commission and your agenda process. So I mean, it's not, even if Terry and David had one ready today to go, it'd be a 3-month process. So, and that doesn't even count the time to do the research, build the document, between planning and the county attorney's office. So.
Well, and it's not as easy as an issue as you may think, because we have a lot of MPUDs on the 54 corridor that have the right to trade off entitlements to mini storage, and so, right now, in some of those MPDs, that's an administrative change. And so it's not clear whether what you're proposing would be eliminating their ability to do that. That's why this is not a neat and clean issue that you can just say, these areas can't have them anymore, because you have existing MPUDs out there that have the ability to do them already. And then are you going to take that away or not? That's a discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah. I don't think we need to be taken away. I believe we need to go forward and approve these fees and go forward with it. I don't think we need to step out there in front of our community, the developing, and just change all that all of a sudden.
Right, but we're sort of on a different topic now. What we need direction from you today on is the mobility fee, and what do you want us to do on the mini storage fees? And I'll go back to that slide. This is what the Planning Commission recommended, just to be real clear, is an increase across the board on all mini storage in the county. And so far, we've seen very little opposition to this.
Arnie, if you do this, does that slow down that development in those areas, I believe, or?
I can't tell you when it's going to slow, at what point the fees will actually act to slow down the development. Because as Mr. Steinsenator said, it's not a zoning change. Right. All it is it's increasing the amount they have to pay for the road impacts.
To do that, yeah.
It's kind of weird how you're making rural so high.
That's not that we're making rural so high. We were directed to remove the incentive. The incentive for rural, across the board, we actually have more incentives going into the rural area than we do into urban and suburban. I know that's counterintuitive, but there's more incentive money on any use in the rural. And so when you remove that incentive from rural, it makes their fee go up higher.
The frustration for me is I am supportive of the density plan that we put into effect when Commissioner Schrader was here to stop urban sprawl. That's very expensive to provide government services to so we want to increase density on the 54 corridor, but we also want jobs. So the whole issue to me, I mean, with that increased density, we're going to need the storage units, but they don't have to be 54 frontage. That is the issue with me. But you can't increase density and not provide storage for them. It just needs to be off the main road. I mean, that's where we need offices and businesses, not mini stores.
So that's a zoning issue.
It's a real dilemma.
That's a zoning issue.
Well, I'd like you to fix that as quick as possible.
Okay, well, I think, let's just.
We said that a
I think
year
your planning
ago.
staff has heard that message, and I think they will move forward on that.
Yeah.
But today, we need to know what to do with the fees.
Chairman.
Yes.
And my issue, my concern with this is where does it stop? And we've got McDonald's and all these restaurants going on 54, on frontage on 54. They don't pay any more or less than a storage unit would pay. Where does it stop? Are we going to start saying we don't have restaurants here? Just the whole process that, again, if we're going to go back and look at both of these, in my opinion, needs to go back to that mobility fee team, let them look at it. I don't think we're in a huge hurry. It doesn't need to be done. It needs to be done by December because we said it does, but we could wait till March. At this point, we've waited long enough. I just think the process needs to be vetted, needs to be done correctly. And Commissioner Moore, I might agree with you at the end, but I want to really hear what they say and do the study on it, and it doesn't need to go back to the planning commission. I'm not sure, but I think the mobility fee, the group that you put together, they need to look at, I believe, both of these. Again, the market decides. We're walking a fine line when we start deciding, my opinion.
So
I would
thing
say that this one passed unanimously, I think, the planning commission, and it went to the mobility fee. So I say let's go ahead and
actually,
change
this one did not go to the committee.
No, neither one of
did
these went to
not.
the mobility. No,
They
neither
did
one.
not go to the committee.
Oh.
The only thing I would caution you about going back to the committee is, as Ms. Woolheit just mentioned, there was a lot of reductions that the committee recommended, particularly for the harbors area. And so if you delay this, it's just delaying the ability for the harbors area
But
to.
I mean, 2 months isn't gonna make or break.
I'm not gonna say it is, I'm just telling you there probably are some developers in the harbors that are waiting for those reductions to take effect. So, but it's ultimately up to the board. If you really, now that we disbanded the committee because we thought their work was done, but could we reform them? Yes, that could be done.
I just think it's the right thing to do to include them in this process. Again, I respect the planning commission's decision, and quite frankly, I would be okay with going forward with the storage facilities. But I think this was something we kind of brought up at the end when we were going through the studies, and it really needs to be vetted. Again, it kind of goes, like Mr. Hobby said, it kind of goes against everything we've talked about for the 4 years I've been here, which is, density and just like Starkey development, where we want everybody to work, play, live right there in the community. This is basically, we're saying, well, we don't want that now as a board.
So there is another option, which is you could move the ordinance forward with no increases. I mean, no increases to mini storage or apartments. And our next update won't be for 5 years, but you could, over the next year, look at just those two fees.
And we could change just those 2 fees in the next year if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, even though the next full update won't be till 5 years from now, you could do a interim
update.
review of just those 2 fees.
That's what I would like to see, just so we're being transparent. It's everybody that needs to be involved is involved. Again, and I'm not saying no to either one of them, but I just think it needs to go through the process.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And that might be the thing, to move it without the changes, and then at the same time, we'll look at the land use changes for both, to what could be worked out. Then you could relook at those at the same time and go through, rather than slow down this process.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? I'll consider that. Let me just throw out a couple things too. I think what you could possibly hear during the next hearing is frustration among some people that are along that 54, 56 corridor that do business there, that do have a high frustration with the amount of multifamily are going along that 54, 56 corridor. And back to what Commissioner Starkey mentioned earlier, taking away some of those land uses where there could be office or employment opportunities there, and we're constantly sticking out multifamily. I mean, I encourage anybody to take a drive along there in the next few days and look at how many apartment complexes are going up right before you get to the overpass, 5675 overpass. I mean, it is turning into apartment city. That's what it is. I mean, the land mass around there is probably the size of Zephyr Hills, the city of Zephyr Hills, or Port Richey, and it's all apartments. They're huge complexes. How much more do you need right there? I mean, so that's taking away that frontage that you talk about, Commissioner Starkey, whether it be multi or storage or multifamily. It's going away because you have apartment complex after apartment complex after apartment complex. So, I mean, I'm sure you'll hear from some people at the next hearing. People that work in the business community, they're tired of it. I hear it all the time. Plus, I hear it from residents, but some of those folks along there are not too thrilled about it right now. I drive it every day, so I see it.
And again, Commissioner, if we go through the process, the mobility fee folks might come back and say, you're right, we looked at it, we studied it, we're oversaturated. But I know the ULI report talked about it, that was done, talks about the need for that. I mean, we're doing the long vision that we've committed. So, but
well, again, and I go back, I'm not saying, I've changed my tune a little bit from during the mobility fee workshop of said, hey, if you already have your entitlements, I'm fine with that. I get it. I get it. It's moving forward with any additional rezoning. Again, don't forget, this is a incentive. You're saying incentivize them. This is an incentive, so you're saying it's okay to incentivize the multifamily along that area. That's what you're not doing. You're not raising the fee, in essence. You're just not incentivizing them anymore. There's a big difference. It's a big difference. So you're saying when you incentivize something, you say you want more of. That's what an incentive is. It encourages more of something, right?
So is multifamily also townhomes?
For zoning purposes, I believe the answer is yes.
There
But
are-
it does have a different fee in the mobility fee schedule.
So the only ones you're talking about here are,
This is limited, the proposal was limited to apartments. It would not include condos, it would not include townhomes, it would not include age-restricted. Multifamily does not include ship affordable.
Or low income.
It doesn't, so yes. This is market rate apartments. That's what we were asked to look at.
which my son is in.
Okay.
So, but to Commissioner Mariano's point, we could bring this forward as part of a larger zoning change, because they're both changes to the land development code. I think you could combine that effort of looking at land use zoning for those two uses, and then as part of that, also look at the mobility fees for those two uses. So that could be done as part of that effort at a later date, if that's what the board wanted us to do.
That would make sense, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so the proposal is to bring this back when? In reference to the
So it won't be the
amount?
mobility fee part that will slow it down, it'll be the zoning part, so.
And I'll say the zoning part, we just did one with those 15 parcels in that one area. I think it probably took about 7 months to get it back. But they can start both of them getting ready, this came up at the same time. It's only 2 things we're looking at.
7 months?
All right?
That's about right. 6 to 7 months would be the best case scenario. You'd factor the time to do the research, the time to move it through the various stakeholder groups and bodies ahead of the LPA and the
What
VCC.
bodies? What bodies?
The horizontal roundtable, the ODT.
Yeah, stakeholder groups, and then.
But how many
commission.
levels do you need to do? How many levels do you need to have?
Well, the typical amendment, LDCA, Land Development Code Amendment process, is to develop the ordinances in-house with the ordinance development team, take it to the horizontal roundtable, do a little back and forth if needed, and then go to the LPA with those amendments and schedule the public hearing process with the board.
So let me just defend the process for a second. The reason we go to all those groups is so that they get buy-in on the change. Otherwise, they're gonna be crowding your commission chamber saying, this never went to us.
No, I'm
So
not
we do that for a
disagreeing.
reason.
How many though? That's what I'm asking. How many?
Well, horizontal roundtable is generally a meeting of the development community.
Right, okay, there's one.
And planning commission, we have to go to because they're your local planning agency. They have to recommend on any land development code change its consistency with the comp plan.
Well, the groups you was telling me sound like you had a lot more.
An
than
ordinance
that.
development team is just staff, it's just staff, all it is staff that is drafting the ordinance is what it is. So I'm not sure there's any more you can cut out of the process.
No,
But I think
I just think it's important to, again, to realize when, leaving here today, that the board, or a portion of the board is willing to incentivize multifamily in those areas. Again, incentivize it,
Mr. Chairman?
to encourage more.
Mr. Marion?
But it's, the way you're changing it though, is you're adding a cost to it, so you're de-incentivizing it, which is a little bit different.
You're taking away the incentives that
Taking
we're
what you've
putting-
already given them, and
taking
what you
away
told they were
incentives
gonna
that
get.
we're-
That certainty that they were told, now you're pulling it back.
No, and that's, again, that's why I said if you already have the entitlements, you have the entitlements. You have the entitlements, your fee doesn't increase.
All right, but what about like the ones that's working on the NPUD?
Get it done before February 1st.
You got ones that are coming forward. I mean, they
Chairman,
just
do we
hadn't
need
got
a
on the radar.
Motion, I've got to leave here in 5
Okay.
minutes, so I want to get through this.
And you have a consent agenda that's still waiting out here on some other items. So what I'm hearing is the majority of the board wants us to defer both of these increases and bring it back whenever we do the zoning land use changes for those two uses.
Yes, and you'll be able to put together the mobility fee team again to look at those two things. I think it's important we include them.
To Commissioner Moore's point, I'm not sure I want to recreate the committee just to look at two. I mean, because then that's another step I got to do, so.
Okay. But that's not going to be the step. It takes a while. It's going to be, and by the way, you just got promoted, so you need to make sure it happens in a very quick time. You know, just point that
He's
out.
going to make it happen quick.
I think
I
you've
mean,
got
it's
the
not going to
message.
take 6 months to put the committee back together to discuss this. I think they could probably,
If you want it to go to the Mobility Fee Advisory Committee again, we can do that.
I just think it's worth having them look at these two things. Again, it's up to the board. I haven't spoken to the folks that are on the board, but I think there's two of them that were here today that they seem to be okay with it.
Okay, well, we can do that.
Well, we need a timeline. I'd like a timeline.
No, I agree.
Agree
I
to
agree.
it, so.
I mean, do you think
got
6 months?
You got 6 months. How's
Can you
that?
get it done in 6 months?
We'll
You can
do it in
work-
6 months.
Okay.
Just to the two zoning issues.
Yes.
The mini storage is a little different because that doesn't really impact the definition, the underlying definition of what an urban service area is. If we're looking at redoing zoning along 54 for multifamily, you're actually unwinding a lot of what you've put into your urban service area. So those are really two separate issues. One, the mini storage is probably relatively straightforward that we can work through. The high density, and I'm not going to call it multi, I'm going to call it high density in the urban service area because that's what you've said you wanted in your comp plan. If you want to unwind that and say, okay, we don't want high density in our urban service area, that's a significantly different type of work than just going back and dealing with mini storage.
Should
Because
not
you're
planner be
unwinding a
speaking
lot
up
of
to
stuff.
Okay.
So the one thing that you have to take into account is that there's the zoning code rewrite that's taking place. And I think that's an important element here to consider because when you talk about multifamily and zoning, multifamily isn't just in an R4 zoning district. It's also in some things like C2 as conditional uses. So you're gonna have to look at, if you're looking at 54, 56, you're gonna have to look at the gambit, the wide range of zoning districts that include the multifamily. So it is a little difficult to parse and pull apart because you're gonna have to make some decisions whether or not some of these land uses belong in permitted uses versus conditional uses versus special exceptions, et cetera.
So I think the mini storage issue from a land use perspective is relatively, and I'll say relatively, I'll use that term loosely, straightforward. The high density discussion, which is what we're talking about when we talk about multifamily, is probably a lot more intertwined with not just zoning, but the comp plan, the urban service area, everything else you've set out over the last several years to say this is where we want high density growth. So there's a lot more that has to go into how do we do kind of the goal you have, Commissioner Moore, of getting it off of the 54 frontage. There's a lot more we have to look at with that than we would with mini storage. Not that we can look at it and see what that would take, but there's a lot more that goes into that than just what the mini storage would be. So those would need to be on two separate timelines.
I think part of the challenge in our county is the lack of east-west roads that, and the lack of being able to go too deep off of 54 and 56 puts a lot on the road frontage that you would normally see buried in other counties more in you know, when you have a grid system, you could put it behind somewhere. And so we have those challenges because of the way that the parks are, the Swift Mud properties. It puts everything pretty visible on two roads.
Okay. That's a good point. And usually what you want to try to do is put your density, your high density land uses to neighbor your high intensity land uses, such as your commercial or your office developments, to create that buffer between those high intensity uses and your low density residential. And so what you'd like to ideally try to create is a situation where there's a grid in place that supports the missing middle housing between your high intensity corridors and your low intensity dwelling areas.
Right. We don't have that kind of makeup in our county. So
and the whole point of that, of course, is that, the whole point of that, of course, is to stack as many land uses as you can on the existing infrastructure that you have in place, roads, water mains, sanitary sewers, even the private infrastructure, like power lines and what have you, so that you're getting the most bang for your buck. You're getting the most land use for the least amount of investment, so to speak.
Commissioner Mariano?
And I'll say, I think both commissioners have great points about not wanting to see apartments on 54, not wanting to see storage units on 54. The part of the high density part, I think that the whole commission was trying to get to from years ago, was we do expect the density's got to go there. We don't want it to be sprawling around. But at the same time, on those frontages, they should have better properties than the two. So I think in the land use, when we study the whole thing, study the fees, we can actually reassess what we really want to see out there. And this is a good way to go take a look at it to get there.
Right. David, I understand that we're going to bring this entire item back.
So the mobility fee, what I'm suggesting, what I'm hearing the majority of the board wants to do is move the mobility fee forward for adoption with all the changes the committee recommended on December 11th. We would postpone any fee increases for mini storage or apartments until some later effort that's combined with some land use zoning effort.
So we spend more time with studying those areas.
You would
and be
spend
sure
more
we get
time
it right.
studying the mini storage and apartment issue.
Okay. All right.
That's what I'm hearing the majority of the board want to do.
It's fine, give me more time to get my case.
Mr. Chairman, and I think it would be important for us to see, acceptable planning, I don't say planning plans, that's, what percentage of our population should be single family, multifamily, apartment? What is the norm? And so, are we out of whack? Are we unusual? Or is it just that it's just more noticeable? I don't think you can answer that today. There's no way you can answer that today, but there must be some kind of
I think
industry standards.
From what I'm hearing you, are you requesting a kind of fiscal impact analysis of the land uses?
Not fiscal, I just want to know what the normal ratios are. Don't hold anything up, just send me that information.
You can get that information to her. Let's stop this item now and work on, you have your direction, David, so let's go with that. And then let's go to the next item.
P6.
Okay?
We do have proof of publication for P6, Tampa Bay Times, August 18th, 2018.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Ed Zodian, and I'm with Long Range Planning.
Can you pull the microphone a little bit closer, please? Thank you.
Can't hear you, yeah.
The item before you, as you can see, is PDD.
Can you repeat your name for the record?
I'm Ed Zodian with Long Range Planning.
Thank you.
The item before you again is PDD 19-1559. It's a comprehensive plan text amendment, which, to that import of which is removing the DRC from the comprehensive plan and replacing it with the Planning Commission where applicable. And if I may, I'll read the ordinance now. It's an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for amendments, removing the reference of the Development Review Committee to Policy Flu 2.1.7, Standards for Review of Rezoning Requests, Rural Neighborhoods, Policy Flu 2.3.3, Standards for Review of Rezoning Requests in Rural Character Areas and Rural Neighborhood Protection Areas for the protection of existing rural neighborhoods, and Policy PSF 4.3.2, Input on Comprehensive Plan Amendments, then replacing the reference of the Development Review Committee and substituting the Planning Commission to Policy Flu 7.1.13, Starkey Ranch Maximum Levels of Development 2, and Policy ED 1.2.2, Target Business Incentive Programs, and providing for repealer, severability, and effective date. This is a county-initiated comprehensive plan text amendment. It is pursuant to the 2008 Urban Land Institute's recommendation to this board to redefine and direct the role of the Development Review Committee. It also, if you recall, in July 2018 this year, this board did vote to eliminate the DRC from the Land Development Code, and this is to conform the the comprehensive plan with that recommendation. I'll be delighted to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Starkey.
Oh, can you explain to me what's going on with Starkey Ranch?
We're replacing the Development Review Committee in that particular provision with the Planning Commission. In fact, it's...
Commissioner, there are elements of the comprehensive plan that specifically reference the DRC, and as we find those, we're having to go back and replace those with the Planning Commission, and so that's effectively what that's doing.
Okay, it's not changing anything with the development, just changing the one?
Just changing DRC to Planning Commission.
Yeah, just changing the
Okay,
entity.
because I'm keeping my eye on something.
Yeah.
Okay.
The recommendation is for approval and adoption of the ordinance by a roll call vote, and I'll be delighted to answer any questions anyone may have.
Okay. This is, any questions? This is a public hearing. Anyone to speak to this item? P6? Seeing no one? What's the board's pleasure?
Move approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second? All those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Roll call vote, excuse me.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay. The, can I just call these these are all continuances?
Yeah. You may want to do...
Do you have to, public notice that they're going to be continued?
No. So,
All right,
okay,
please.
so you may want to do swearing in and the procedures first, and then move into your continuances, just so that we have it out of the
Okay,
way.
all right.
There are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there's no opposition, and the application will be considered by the board without further presentation. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the application, the applicant will be given 5 minutes for presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual, or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or Planning Commission recommendation, or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning may at this time request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is that mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria for rezoning found within the board's land development code. And Madam Clerk, if you want to swear them in.
Absolutely. Does anyone want to testify this afternoon? If you could stand, raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, so help you God? Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, if you have proof of publication from 7 on down.
7, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay. For P7, Tampa Bay Times, September 14th, 2018. For P8, Tampa Bay Times, September 28th, 2018. P9, Tampa Bay Times, November 2nd, 2018. P10, Tampa Bay Times, September 14th, 2018.
Okay, P7 is continued to January 22nd, 2018.
So yield to the planning director, and he'll go through the public hearing items for you that are being continued.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I might add that per the petitioner's request, item P12, which is currently on the consent agenda, they'd like to continue that to the December 11.
So why don't you do the ones that are currently scheduled for continuance, and then we'll get to P12.
Okay. So item P7 is a zoning amendment called Hagman MPUD Master Plan Unit Development by the Roy Edward Hagman Revocable Trust and Carol A. Shaw, Ronald D. Hagman, and Robert G. Hagman, co-trustees. It's a rezoning request from an AR1 agricultural residential zoning district to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development to allow 130 single-family detached units on approximately 46.77 acres. The property is located in central Pasco on the north side of Osteria Loop, approximately 1,000 feet west of US Highway 41. The item is continued, or requesting continuance to January 22, 2019, BCC meeting at 1:30 p.m. in Newport Richey. Item P8 is...
Take them one at a time.
Okay.
So
Want a motion to continue? Move to continue time certain?
Second.
And a motion and a second to continue to January 22nd, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed.
Item P8 is a conditional use amendment in the name of Angelo's Aggregates Limited, Class 1 mine and Class 3 landfill, to amend to remove time and replace with volume located north of Enterprise Road, west of Alton Road, east of Duck Lake Canal Road. The item is requested for a continuance to December 11, 2018, BCC meeting at 1:30 p.m. here in Dade City.
Move to December 11, 2018.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Item P9 is a conditional use request in the name of Carol A. Roth. The operation of a power glide launch and landing field in an AC agricultural district. This is in central Pasco County at the southeast corner of the intersection of McKendree Road and Tyndall Road. The item is requested to be continued to the January 8, 2019 BCC meeting at 1:30 p.m. in Dade City.
Move to approve? Move to continue.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs. All motion passed.
Item P10 is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment in the name of CPAL 1809 Hagman. It is a future land use change from Res 3, residential 3 dwelling units per gross acre, to PD plan development on approximately 46.81 acres located on Wisteria Loop, approximately 550 feet west of Land O'Lakes Boulevard.
Continue to January 22nd, 2019.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed.
And then item P12 is a zoning amendment to be put on the continuance. Schwen Family Limited
So
Partnership.
as far as we went was P10. Do you want me to go through the consent items for publication dates?
Let's just do P12 for right now, since
Okay.
since
Do
he's changing it.
P12.
He's pulling it off of consent and asking it to be continued.
Okay, so P12 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, November 2nd, 2018.
So P12 again is a zoning amendment, Schwen Family Limited Partnership. It's a change in zoning from AC Agricultural District to PO1 Professional Office, North Central Pasco County. The continuance is requested until December 11, 2018, here at Dade City at 1:30 p.m.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
given that this was advertised as an approval and you have a speaker signed up for it, can Ms. Hazelwood, or do you wish to waive your comments today for the hearing in December?
December 11th.
Or you get one shot?
I get one shot.
Either today or on the 11th?
So if I speak today, I can't speak then. I'll waive it then.
Okay.
Be better on that. Yeah.
Move to continue time certain?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Now we'll go to P11. We got public.
So now the rest of the consent
These are
agenda
consent.
that you've got proof of publication for, Madam Clerk.
Yep.
Okay, P11, Tampa Bay Times, August 3rd, 2018, along with affidavit of certified mailings and site postings. P13, Tampa Bay Times, October 12th, 2018, with affidavit of certified mailings and site postings. P14, Tampa Bay Times, November 2nd, 2018. P15, 16, 17, and 18, November 2nd, 2018. P19, Tampa Bay Times, October 5th, 2018. P20, Tampa Bay Times, October 19th, 2018. P21, Tampa Bay Times, November 2nd, 2018. Oh, I see one more consent.
No.
Zoning consent? Oh, you want me to stop there? Oh, that's P11. Okay.
I think that's it on the consent.
Yeah, P23 is not consent, so I think you got it.
So that goes up
No.
to 21.
Yeah, you went through 21, that's correct. So we go back to P11.
So item P11 is a zoning amendment. This one is related to item P3 that you heard earlier for the comprehensive plan amendment in Gulf Breeze Manor. This is a zoning amendment, Factory Direct Marine and Recreational Vehicle, MPUD Master Plan Unit Development by Patriot Bank, a rezoning request from C2 General Commercial and MF1 Medium Density Multifamily Zoning Districts to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development Zoning District to allow 50,000 square feet of commercial development, approximately 7.72 acres, and a variation from the Land Development Code Section 905.2.d.5, perimeter landscape buffering and screening located on the west side of US 19, approximately 300 feet north of Beacon Woods Drive in Hudson. This comes with a recommendation for approval with conditions.
So, what number was that?
This is P11.
This is P11. It was related to the comprehensive plan amendment heard earlier, P3.
Is anyone here to speak against P11?
Well, I have a question.
A question, okay.
When you say get rid of landscaping, I just wanted to know more specifically what you're talking about.
The variation for the landscaping has to do with the fact that the building has been built right on the property line. And so they're taking into account the limited space between the property line and the building to establish the buffer yards that are required.
So,
The existing building.
The existing building,
The
correct.
existing building.
Okay.
Okay, your question answered. Okay.
Does that explain it? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Anyone here to speak against P11? If not, it will remain on consent.
Item
P13.
Sorry. Item P13 is a zoning amendment in the name of the Grove at Wesley Chapel MPUD Master Plan Unit Development by South Pasco Properties LLC, Oakley Grove Development LLC, and Caswell Realty Partners LLC, a rezoning request from C2 General Commercial District and MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to allow 500,000 square feet of office, 250 hotel rooms, 300 multifamily apartment units, a 2,738 seat movie theater, and 1,171,303 square feet of retail commercial on approximately 167.312 acres located on the east side of Oakley Boulevard, north of Wesley Chapel Boulevard. This comes with recommendation for approval with conditions.
Okay. Anyone here to speak against P13?
I really want to vote against it until they put a movie theater on my side.
We'll address that another day.
Who's out there dealing with this one?
Okay, seeing no one, it will remain on consent.
You.
P14.
P14 is a zoning amendment in the name of Justin Marsicano Trust. It's a change in zoning from an R2 low-density residential district to a C2 general commercial district, Central Pasco County, on the east side of Land O'Lakes Boulevard, approximately 1,100 feet south of State Road 52, containing approximately 0.9 acres. This comes with a recommendation for approval.
Anyone out there to speak against P14? Seeing no one, remain on consent. P15.
Item P15 is a zoning amendment in the name of Newport Ritchie Automotive Management LLC and Jacob Cross Holdings LLC. It's a change in zoning from an R4 high-density residential district, C2 general commercial district, and MPUD master plan unit development to a MF1 multifamily medium-density district in southwest Pasco County on the northwest side of Gulf Trace Boulevard, approximately 200 feet north of Camry Drive, containing approximately 12.27 acres. This comes with a recommendation for approval.
Okay, anyone to speak against P15? Seeing no one, we'll remain on consent. P16.
Item P16 is a zoning amendment in the name of Withlacoochee River Electric Co-op, Inc. It's a change in zoning from an R3 medium-density residential district to an AR1 agricultural residential district. It's in northeast Pasco County on the west side of US Highway 98, approximately 1,700 feet north of the intersection of US Highway 98 and US Highway 301, extending westerly to Old Cholby Road, containing approximately 4.67 acres. It comes with a recommendation for approval.
Anyone to speak to P16? Against P16? Anyone? Okay. It will remain on consent. P17.
Item P17 is a zoning amendment in the name of Stinson Property Florida LLC, Elite Fence Company. It's a change in zoning from a C2 General Commercial District and an R1 NH Single Family Mobile Home District to a C2 General Commercial District in northwest Pasco County on the west side of US Highway 19 and on the north side of Flounder Drive, and it comes with a recommendation for approval.
Anyone to speak against P17? Seeing no one, it will remain on consent. P18.
Item P18 is a conditional use request in the name of VGA Realty LLC, Nail Country and Tan Spa. It is for the sale of alcoholic beverages, a 2-cup, beer and wine only, on-premises consumption in conjunction with the operation of a nail and tan spa in a MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District, South Central Pasco County, at the northeast corner of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard and Williamsburg Drive. It comes to you with a recommendation for approval with conditions.
So I do not want my nail tech drinking while she's doing my nails. I don't get this thing at all.
Is anyone here to speak to P18?
The customer is not.
Seeing no one, it will remain on
She cannot
consent.
drink while she's doing her
P19.
nails.
Item P19 is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment in the name of CPEL 1812, the reserve at Hunter's Ridge Phase 2. It is a change in future land use from PSP, major public, semi-public, to PD, planned development on 29.18 acres, more or less of real property, located approximately 1,100 feet south of Rancho Del Rio Drive on the east side of Little Road with associated subarea policy flu 7.1.48, the reserves at Hunter's Ridge Phase 2. It comes to you with a recommendation for approval.
Anyone to speak against P19?
Great use for this
Seeing no
land.
one?
And just to make sure this is a transmittal for the comprehensive plan amendment.
It will remain on consent. P20.
Item P20 is an amendment and restatement of a development agreement in the name of Puran Sukai et al. The project is located in south central Pasco County, approximately 400 feet north of State Road 54 and approximately 300 feet east of I-75. It comes with a recommendation for approval.
Anyone here to speak against P20? Seeing no one, it will remain on consent. P21.
Item P21 is a development of regional impact DRI rescission, the Grove at Wesley Chapel DRI, Oakley Grove Development LLC, Caswell Realty Partners LLC, and South Pasco Properties LLC. It's a resolution rescinding the development order of the Grove at Wesley Chapel DRI number 253, resolution 05-156, as subsequently amended and restated, and providing for an effective date. It comes to you with a recommendation for approval.
Anyone here to speak against P21? Seeing no one, it will remain on consent, and it's a pleasure of the board on all consent items from...
What about 21?
Move for approval of any consent.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on all consent items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. P22 has already been taken care of. P23.
We do have proof of
Publication.
publication. Yes, we do, I'm sorry. Trying to notarize your other documents. We do have proof of publication, P23, Tampa Bay Times, November 1st and November 8th, 2018.
Good afternoon, Heather Wolf, Real Property and Planning. The Real Property and Planning team has received a petition to vacate a platted alleyway filed by William M. Kitson and Melissa D. Kitson. The subject vacation area contains 0.13 acres, more or less, and is located in Wesley Chapel. The petitioners own the adjacent parcels to the north and south, and the alleyway is undeveloped, and vacating the alleyway would not affect access to the surrounding parcels. And there have been no objections to the petition, and team recommends approval.
Is anyone here to speak to P23?
Seeing no one, I
Seeing
would
none?
recommend approval.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, is that everything? Oh, we got
You
old business.
Old business, and
Miscellaneous.
I think they
Do you have
decided to
C-78?
I think they've decided to Kathy, you've decided to withdraw C-78 for today's agenda?
For today, yeah.
So C-78's withdrawn.
Okay. We'll go now to old business. Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to get these pictures up for us. Sorry. Just get those. Can you put these on the screen, Elmo? Back in June, I brought up a situation where we had good staff. We're trying to take care of a seawall that had collapsed in Hudson. And it's gotten worse. The lady was just asking me about what's going on with it again. She emailed everybody something just a little while ago with the latest pictures. So you can kind of see what's going on up there. Talking with our staff, because the ordinance, the way it's written, there's nothing more that can be done, and they've actually closed the file. So I want you to see the pictures.
Where's this in Hudson?
This is in Hudson. There's some pictures. The first one just shows, that's eroded back a little bit further. The next picture, I think, that just showed the other picture. It shows how there's all the concrete blocks in there. Seawall collapsed, they put the concrete blocks in. The only thing we could do because of the code, the way it's written, is actually to pull those blocks out. I want to recommend, and I do have the Hernando County ordinance, that we have staff take an immediate look at this, go look at adopting it. Because what it says in Hernando County is if you have a seawall in a neighborhood and one collapses in, you
Right.
force the people to fix it. If they don't fix it, there's a fine, you can reconstruct it, put a lien in the property, get it rebuilt. Okay?
Nice.
This is something that we need to go do, and Hernando's
We don't
already
have
got-
anything in Pasco of that nature.
We don't have anything like it. Matter of fact, right now, the way that sits right now is legal, and there's nothing they can do about it,
That's not.
which doesn't make any sense. So, and Mike could text me back earlier today saying, there's nothing more we can do, the case is closed. But if that goes, and it's already affecting the neighbors already, we need to go back and look at this ordinance very quickly. I mean, if we can bring it back even to the, maybe not the next meeting, but the next couple of meetings coming back, I think it's something we do with drafts.
Okay.
So I'll hand it to Mr. Steinschneider. So again, that was something that happened in June. Next thing, everybody remembers in Boatyard Drive, we spent the time and money with our staff to go through. We had 4 lots that were around up one property. We kind of divided up. We helped them go develop the property. And then I
Right.
told you back in July that we were having an issue with how high the seawall could be built. So one of them was, let's say, 3 foot higher than the base level. Those are the only pictures I need to show you.
Oh, okay, thinking more. Sorry, come back to you.
So the base level's at 3 foot higher than what the ground was, and our staff did not want the person to build the seawall up to the highest level of any seawall that was there. Happened there, it happened on Beverly Drive as well. Now, I'm gonna talk about the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council in just a moment, but I'm gonna say we need to go take a look at how we wanna build these seawalls, how high, because if you wanna look at the latest data that's out there, if we're gonna get a 6-foot increase in seawall, or sea level rise,
6 foot?
6 foot by the year 2100, if that's the number, and we're only allowing people not even to match the highest level that's out there, we're in serious trouble. Now I'm going to open up to the Tampa Bay Regional Council. When we had a presentation on that Regional Planning Council resolution, I want the board to know I talked about it at the meeting while I was there. And as I went through it, I wasn't negative to the resolution. I just wanted to get some significant effect in there, which would actually show that we're going to do something that would be effective. Now, I'm going to read this to you real quick. It's just from Sean Sullivan, the executive director. Well, I think, Commissioner, you might have been on there when they hired this gentleman. He's a very smart man. And I asked him about this, and when the reporter from the Tampa Bay Times interviewed me on it, I says, don't just take my word for it. I know those meetings are taped. You can go get the verbiage from there. You can go talk to the executive director or other members and find out what I said at the meeting to bring it back forward. And I'm just going to read to you. It's actually online. I can email it to you if you want to even listen to the audio clip. This is Commissioner Mariano. Please find the audio clip of your statement from the August 13th Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council meeting where the topic of resiliency was discussed. Your statements at this meeting certainly reflect your support for resiliency and storm surge and rising floods in Pasco County. Your input into resiliency discussion is valued much. Your commitment to creating a more resilient Tampa Bay has never been in doubt by the council staff. We have communicated with your staff as requested on the topic of resiliency, and we're happy to continue this communication. Thank you for your commitment to regionalism and for your many years of support for the Regional Planning Council initiatives, including resiliency. Now, I'll tell you, when I made my comments, what I asked the executive director to meet with was our growth management person. Knowing we had these issues about how the high the seawalls should be and how it didn't make sense for our staff to say, well, build them lower than higher, and then having our staff go, I says, you know, part of the discussion was FEMA, NFIP, and everybody should be on the same page. And as the Regional Planning Council, I think you should be in line, and you could start with my board, because I know we need help, our own staff, as far as feel what we need to go do to make us more resilient, before we even talk in resiliency, just to build the seawalls where they should be built. In doing so, I asked both of them to go meet. When they were going to meet, it was going to be a change to the resolution about how it was going to be worded to put something in there. We're going to actually do something with that type of thing. Because the resolution, the way it's drafted, doesn't really address it. There's generalities, but it doesn't mean anything's going to happen. And I just didn't want to pass a resolution coming forward. I expected them to meet, and it was Terry and Sean, and just they didn't meet. It didn't come back. Where the resolutions, and you know when we had a transition with my staff person, where the resolutions getting pushed on or pushed on, didn't quite happen. As a matter of fact, if you remember the neuroscience center that opened at Bayonet Point Hospital, when that opened up, that was supposed to be done back in July. Or let's say it was done in July, so September we're going to have a meeting. That didn't happen until last month. So I want to say that the interviewer from the Tampa Bay Times, the article, okay, completely did not do their research to find out exactly what was said and what was going on. I wasn't pushing this thing back. I just wanted to make it as good as it possibly could be, rather than do something and not redo it. So I apologize to the board to be putting Pasco County in a bad light by not being part of that resolution, but it doesn't mean we can't join it. But it does mean we can actually make this thing better and deal with it. And I think you've heard me deal with the seawater issues, and I'm not saying that nothing's going to happen and we don't need to protect ourselves. But I'm going to tell you, the way that article was done was terrible, and I want to tell you, the opinion letter to the Tampa Bay Times never called me to interview me, and I don't know if anyone did any of their background work. So I want you to know, as I sit on every committee, I do stress what I think is important. If I thought there was any issues that were going on, I'd let you know. But yeah, we missed a timing deadline. That's all that happened. Okay. And it shouldn't have been anywhere near the way it went. But I will tell you, it's something we can address and bring it back. And hopefully Terry, as Terry will vouch that he's willing to meet with Sean as well. It's not a big issue. It's just a matter of getting this right. And just for the record, back in 2010, the Southeast Florida Regional Climate Change Compact was formed, much in the same thing with climate change, et cetera. Okay, it was highly resounded, mentioned in the study that's out there, this documents out there. But this is something that can be done, should be done, and we can work together. But I think we can start providing a lot of information. If my staff feels that we shouldn't raise seawalls up to a certain level, and it's being done locally right now, then we need to actually address all that anyway. So, Terry, do you want to talk to that?
Okay. Yes, Terry Pitos with Planning and Development. Just to confirm, Commissioner Mariano, we are in dialogue with Mr. Sullivan. He did provide us with a revised memorandum of understanding with regard to the TDRRC resolution that they approved on October 8th or signed on October 8th. He provided that to us about a week before the Thanksgiving break, during which time I was in training. So I'm going to be responding to Mr. Sullivan this week regarding that memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
So,
and again, if we're getting a memorandum of understanding, we're going to know where we're at. And yeah. Terry, thank you very much. And again, it happened the way it happened. It's just unfortunate, but there's no way I'm trying to deflect anything, trying to make this county as good as it possibly can be, especially on the coast. And Terry, when you do talk about as well as seawall height, We're gonna need to go take, I think, a look at the seawall ordinance. I mean, not the seawall ordinance, but the seawall ordinance that if we put more than 500 square feet of concrete right now over a seawall, it actually makes it stable, okay? And the more concrete you put around it, makes that even more stable. Right now, we have you do a second permit when you're going over 500 square feet. So try to imagine a big canal home. If you're gonna go more than that to go build it up and you could make it stronger, we're now restricting that. We're also take another thing, which I think should get looked at, is our fill permit that we put in years ago when people were filling in on lower areas and flooding out the neighbors. It's not the case in the water. If someone wants to build their area up higher, we should let them go up higher, not put them to another hassle with another seawall permit to go through for fill ordinance. And if somebody says that FEMA doesn't want us to go high, and one of our own staff people actually said that, FEMA doesn't care as long as you don't affect the base flood elevation. So think of how high that is. That's what they want the water to flow back when it's going to flow back. They're not worried about what that little square foot of property is. So Terry, if you can find out how you can work that verbiage in as an action item with that member understanding, I think the planning expertise that you'll have, that we can give the regional planning council, will actually help the whole region.
Just one comment on filling higher than your neighbor on the water.
That's what I'm
Because that's what he's saying. And the only issue there is, as they work on this, that you should drain out your own water. So you just have to build that in. You shouldn't drain your lot onto your neighbor's lot and then put pressure on their seawall.
You're absolutely correct, and I'm sorry to bring that up, but that is one of the points too that's very key with that. And our dock operators want to see that happen as well, but absolutely you should be able to take all your rainwater and drain it out. And even if you're going to put more concrete, when you put it on the edge, you're going to pitch it toward the water anyway. And if you can control all your regular structures that take that water and directly drain it out, that's better for the Gulf anyway. Right. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Mr. Biles?
Can I just add two more things?
Huh.
I just want to say this. Hey, everybody could talk about events. I got to talk about events. Up at,
I thought you were done, but okay.
Well, just with that issue, I'm good with that. Up at Sunwest Park, the Classical Academy is going to do a 5K run and extra runs up there. It's going to be the first week in December, first or second week in December. And then the beach charity event with CARES is going to come up December 15th and 16th.
I thought that was the first weekend in December. The beach chair.
Beach chair, they moved it to the 15th, 16th.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I want to bring something up that he wants to bring up.
Huh?
Well,
Who?
are we going to go all the way around
We'll
again? Okay. I'll just wait till we go all the way around.
Okay.
I got an hour.
Mr. Biles?
Well, as I think was mentioned about 8 hours ago, all four bond propositions passed, and so we are meeting and working through a plan of action to execute those in a timely manner. I think you will see a resolution on your agenda next meeting on the 11th to start the validation process. The county attorney is working with the bond council. Parallel to that, we're working with the various departments and facilities to make sure we have an executable plan to get these things done in a timely manner so we meet the intent of the voters across the board. So want to let you know we're working that. We'll probably bring you something to look at or send you out a report, kind of what that looks like here in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's all I got.
That's it. Mr. Steinstein?
Back to your favorite topic.
Get my calendar.
So we need to complete the litigation assessment meeting that we started today on Diane Thurl-Kobernick versus Pasco County and Bonnie Benke, case number 51-2016-CA-3484-WS, Florida 6th Judicial Circuit. My proposal was to follow up immediately after. You've got a special meeting set for December 4th. And as soon as that land use matter is over, we can recess to a closed session to finish up that matter, if that meets with the approval of the board.
Okay.
And I desire advice of the Board of County Commissioners concerning Pepper Contracting Services, a Florida corporation, versus Pasco County, Florida, a political subdivision of the state of Florida, Pasco County Circuit Court, 6th Judicial Circuit Civil Division, case number 2016-CA-3254WS, and Pepper Contracting Services, a Florida corporation, versus Pasco County, Florida, a political subdivision in the state of Florida, Pasco County Circuit Court, 6th Judicial Circuit Civil Division, case number 51-2016-CA-3148-ES, to discuss settlement negotiations and strategy related to litigation expenses. And for that reason, I request a private attorney-client meeting to be scheduled for December 11th for approximately 45 minutes, and it's up to the board whether they want to do it before the meeting, at lunch, or after the meeting. I know Commissioner Moore said he had a conflict at lunch.
David and I worked it out.
Okay.
So well, I'll be good.
I'm good with lunch.
Lunch is good.
So we'll set it
Is that
for.
on the 11th?
Yep. We'll set it for noon on the 11th.
Okay.
Okay. And that's all that I have for you today. Thank you very much.
All is well.
Paula, how you doing? You have something? You have nothing on business? Okay. Well, again,
Well, wait a minute.
whoa,
Do you have something? Don't end the meeting yet. That's all I'm saying.
okay. You have
Oh,
something?
no, you can.
No, I'll
Okay.
wait.
I just, we got the dredging report. I don't know if any of you looked at some of those costs, but I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, I want to know if we're going to talk about that, because I want to re-look at how they looked at some of the channels. For example, the South Channel, the one I live on in Gulf Harbor, as far as I know, the only issue is a short, 20-meter or 20-yard area on the way out of the channel. But they costed the whole channel, $16 million. So I'm not sure what happened there, but I'd like to, we need to go into that report at some point.
And I haven't seen that report. I didn't know it came out, so.
Oh, yeah, I got an email.
Okay, I will definitely take a look at that, because I think you're right on the money. It was expected to be very, very little work to be done in Gulf Harbors. Hudson Channel only had
Just the South Channel, like $16 million or $7 million.
we'll find out what happened, and we'll go after how they even charged us to go look at all that. Thank you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
I just want us to look at
Okay.
that dredging report and tweak it.
All right. What else y'all want?
No, we're good.
We're all good. Thank you again for your confidence in me and support as being chairman, and I will work hard to do so. All of staff, Dan, all your staff, all the people in your teams that you work with, I appreciate everything they do, and they've done for the 2 years I've been here. I know they're gonna get better every day, so Don's assured me his whole team's gonna be the best, so. I appreciate each and every one of them, and look forward to working with them this year. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot more going to go on with those referendums we got passed. I mean, pretty amazing what can happen here in Pasco County and all the good things that's coming about. So we got, I want to caution us too, because the extra homestead did not pass. So I want us to be very careful with the monies we have for us in the future, because that allowed $12 million to be there that we thought might not be there. But we want to be real careful in proving how we spend money or actually give back. So for this year, this coming year. We're doing 19 for 20.
Year 20 budget.
Then we're trying to set it, yeah, year 20 budget. So we'll be working on it in the end. So I think it's very much so we have to pay attention to those monies, and it's our citizens' money, and we need to be very careful on how we use that. And if we do not need it, we need to be given back. So I thank you for everything. So with that, we adjourn.
Thank you, sir.